Chapter 2342. The Battle King General's eyes were filled with anger. Everyone in Qinghua City knows that Yuan Kuang is my son. Who dares to touch him? Looking at his son's injuries, the Battle King General was too lazy to blame the general's wife. He glared at the guards kneeling on the ground. Speak. Who was the one who dared to touch Kuang? Have you arrested that person yet? The guards felt wronged. They looked at Steward Fan, who was lying on the ground covered in blood, but no one cared about him. Then they looked at Yuan Kuang, who was lying on the bed. He only had a few scratches on his body, but he was surrounded by doctors and maids who were taking care of him. The contrast was too strong. However, as guards, they did not dare to say anything. They could only reply in a trembling voice, "Battle King General, he ran away." Bang! The guard who replied was sent flying by the Battle King General's kick. This kick was filled with raging Shen Qi. The guard's blood splattered everywhere as he was torn into pieces. The dozens of guards shivered and knelt on the ground stiffly. Even their breathing became cautious. Ran away? You let my son's man escape after he injured him? The Battle King General's eyes flashed with ruthlessness and anger. You are a bunch of trash. What's the use of me keeping you trash? Hearing the Battle King General's tone, it was obvious that he wanted to kill them. The guards were so scared that their bodies went soft. One by one they begged in panic. It's not that we let him escape, it's the young master. The young master did not allow us to touch that young lady. The young master has taken a fancy to that young lady. The young master did not dare to disobey the young master's words. Young lady? The Battle King General's angry face froze. What young lady? Battle King General, it's the young master. The young master has taken a fancy to a young lady on the street. That young lady has a fiery temper and has attacked the young master several times. We wanted to protect the young master and capture that young lady, but the young master, he did not allow us to touch that young lady, the guards explained while trembling with fear. They carefully observed the general's expression. One of the more courageous guards fiercely swallowed a mouthful of saliva and mustered up his courage to say, "General, the young prince, he is the publicly acknowledged genius child prodigy of the ingratiating Joy City. In the entire Northern Waves continent, I'm afraid that no one can easily injure the young prince. If the young prince was unwilling, the young prince wouldn't be injured." The War King General frowned. The guard's words made sense. He was well aware of Kuang Er's strength. To injure or leave a scar on Kuang Er's body, one had to be some kind of senior. However, a girl that could catch Kuang Er's eye must also be a young and beautiful girl. In that case, it was absolutely impossible for him to hurt Kuang Er. When the Warlord General heard this, his anger gradually dissipated. If Kuang Er was willing to do this for a girl, then it would just be a game for him. However, he was a little interested in that little girl. He knew that Kuang Er was the young prince. He actually dared to reject Kuang Er? How long would Kuang Er be interested in such a tough bone? The War King General felt that this was just a game. However, the madam of the general, who loved her son so much, did not think so. She suddenly stood up and strode to the door. Chapter 2343. Since Kuang Er likes that girl, just get someone to bring her back. The Warlord General waved his hand impatiently and returned to the bed, looking down at Yuan Kuang. Just get her back? That little slut, I can't even bear to hurt my son. She dared to use Kuang Er's love to hurt my handsome face to this state. How can I let it go like this? The general's wife clenched her fists, her eyes filled with killing intent. All of you immediately draw a portrait of that little slut and search the entire city. You must bring her to the Warlord Mansion before dark. The general's wife and the Warlord General met and fell in love on the battlefield. The general's wife often followed the Warlord General to battle on the battlefield. Naturally, she had the aura of a general's wife. The guards were so scared that their legs turned to jelly. They hurriedly accepted the order and carefully retreated. Only after leaving Yuan Kuang's courtyard did they heave a sigh of relief. Inside the room, a doctor was applying medicine to Yuan Kuang. The Warlord General asked a few questions. He confirmed that Yuan Kuang had indeed only suffered a few scratches. The general's wife almost cried when she heard this. At this time, a youth wearing a navy blue robe rushed in. He knelt on the ground. Warlord General, general's wife. I beg you, give my father justice. The Warlord General furrowed his brows and looked at the youth kneeling in front of him. The youth had already crawled to a corner. The Warlord General then realized that there was a small stretcher there. On the stretcher was the bloodied and injured Chief Steward Fan. Father, wake up. The youth lay on Chief Steward Fan's body and cried. The warlord general then remembered that Chief Steward Fan, who had been taking care of Yuan Kuang, had also been crippled. The youth was Chief Steward Fan's son, Fan Jianren. He kowtowed to the warlord general. "General, I beg you, save my father. Avenge my father. That slut not only crippled my father, she also injured the young lord. She doesn't put the warlord mansion in her eyes at all." Fan Jianren's eyes were filled with an ominous glint. He clenched his fists tightly and tears streamed down his face. Fan Jianren's appearance caused the warlord general's face to sink slightly. His tightly knit brows wrinkled a few times. Fan Jianren had been by Steward Fan's side since he was young, so he was very good at reading people's expressions. He immediately hammered his head and said in an angry tone, "General, this lowly one specially heard about the situation at that time. That little slut clearly knew the little prince's identity, but she kept on spouting wild words and humiliating the little prince. He even attacked the young prince several times. Not only that, but that little slut also injured the young prince's guard, shouting at the little prince. Even when Princess Lingling came, she was seduced by the little slut and made Princess Lingling run away in anger. Princess Lingling is also involved in this matter?" The warlord general's expression changed. Fan Jianren clenched his fists and raised his head. "It's absolutely true. Because Princess Lingling ran away in anger because of the young prince, my father. He has taken care of the young prince for 8 years. Naturally, he could see the young prince's love for that slut, so he took the initiative to capture that slut for the young prince. But I didn't expect." He kowtowed hard on the ground. "This lowly one begs the general to capture that slut, lest that slut hurt the young prince? Where did that young lady come from? How could she even injure Chief Steward Fan?" The warlord general narrowed his sinister eyes. Not only was he injured, but he was also seriously injured. He was completely crippled. Chapter 2344. Could it be? Was she targeting the King of War's residence? This thought made General Zhan Wang raise his guard against the girl. He called out a few names. 2 men dressed as soldiers immediately came in from the door. The general ordered in a deep voice, "After you get the portrait, quickly arrest that girl and bring her to the King of War's residence. I want to interrogate her personally." "Yes, General." The 2 men quickly retreated like the wind. A trace of ruthlessness flashed across Fan Jianren's eyes. His father had sacrificed so much for the King of War's residence, wholeheartedly and conscientiously. He did not expect the general's attitude towards his father to be so cold. If it was not because it involved Yuan Kuang. He was afraid the general would not take the matter of Chief Steward Fan being crippled seriously. Fan Jianren pursed his lips and suppressed his dissatisfaction towards the general. On the surface he put on a grateful expression. Just as he was about to speak, he heard the nervous voice of the general's wife. "Doctor, how is my son? Other than the abrasions on his face, where else is he injured?" Everyone's attention immediately focused on the doctor. The doctor shook his head. "It's nothing serious. I've already applied medicine. He should be fine after resting for half a month." "Are you sure you've checked carefully? Are you sure Kuang is really fine? It's just a scratch. Why hasn't Kuang woken up yet?" The general's wife asked anxiously. "Madam," the general shouted, "I trust Dr. Lu's medical skills very much." Dr. Lu was the accompanying military doctor of the King of War. His medical skills were excellent, and his diagnosis and treatment were never wrong. The general's wife naturally knew this as well. But seeing Kuang in a coma, she felt heartache and panic. Dr. Lu waved his hand. "The young prince might be tired, that's why he has been unconscious. Tell the servants to cook some porridge. When the young prince wakes up, we'll fill his stomach first." The general's wife hurriedly ordered the servants to go to the kitchen. Just as she sent Dr. Lu to the door, suddenly the maids exclaimed. The general's wife immediately turned around and saw Yuan Kuang sitting at the head of the bed. "Kuang?" The general's wife's eyes lit up and she rushed over happily. "Kuang, you're finally awake. Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Are you hungry?" Yuan Kuang didn't reply. He just sat there stiffly. The general's wife had already walked to the bedside. She stretched out her hand wanting to caress Yuan Kuang's face. However, her hand was suddenly grabbed by Yuan Kuang. Kuang? The general's wife felt a sharp pain in her wrist. In the next instant, Yuan Kuang jumped up from the bed. Such a big lump of fat, just like that, pressed the general's wife to the ground. The general's wife grimaced in pain. The back of her head hit the ground, causing the earth to shake. Before she could react, Yuan Kuang suddenly opened his mouth and bit the general's wife's wrist. That bite was extremely heavy. He bit off the flesh on the general's wife's hand. They could even see a large expanse of white bones. The general's wife struggled in pain, but she was afraid of hurting her son. "Master, quick, quick, bring Kuang," she shouted, wanting to help General Zhan Wang. Who would have thought that after Yuan Kuang took that bite, his whole body would hold the bloody meat in his mouth, and he would shake his head while drooling. An even more shocking scene followed closely behind. They saw Yuan Kuang, while shaking his head, his body was like a beast, shaking his buttocks continuously on the general's wife's body. Chapter 2345. Yuan Kuang's actions made everyone present turn pale with fright. The servants and maids all screamed and covered their eyes. In the next moment, Yuan Kuang's actions were even more unsightly. He was like an animal shaking his body. The lump of flesh in his mouth was flung away. He lowered his head and bit off a bloody piece of flesh from the general's wife's shoulder. The general's wife sucked in a breath of cold air. She wanted to struggle and push Yuan Kuang away. But she was afraid that her strength would be too great and hurt her son, so she didn't even dare to use profound qi. Another piece of flesh was bitten off by Yuan Kuang again. "Master, quickly pull Kuang air away." The general's wife frowned, her breathing somewhat chaotic. She often went to the battlefield, injuries were inevitable. Although it was painful to have a piece of flesh bitten off, it was still bearable. The only thing she couldn't bear was Yuan Kuang's actions, and in front of so many servant girls and manservants, just as the general's wife was about to cry out, the sound of cloth being torn was heard. The general's wife was startled and immediately screamed. Tearing, Yuan Kuang's hands constantly tore off the general's wife's clothes. No one knew what was going on. Yuan Kuang's nails were so sharp that they could easily tear the general's wife's clothes into pieces. In a short while, the general's wife's body was exposed to the air. Yuan Kuang was still shaking nonstop. In public, the manservants and maids couldn't even scream in fear at this moment. Each and every one of them was weak, kneeling on the ground. Their eyes were full of fear. Little Prince actually wanted to do that kind of thing to my mother, and in front of my father, they came across such a shocking secret. How could the general still let them live? Kuang air. General Zhan Wang recovered from his shock. His face was gloomy as he quickly walked forward, wanting to pull Yi Tian Kuang away from the general's wife. "General, wait." Dr. Lu quickly stopped General Zhan Wang. "Little Prince seems to have lost his mind. If you go to stop him, I'm afraid he will bite the general." General Zhan Wang withdrew his hand. What should I do? Look at young Prince's condition, young Prince." Dr. Lu had not finished his words. The general's wife screamed, "Ah!" He saw that the clothes on the general's wife had been completely torn apart. Yuan Kuang was like an animal in heat looking for a place. The general's wife was so frightened that she kept pushing Yuan Kuang. However, the lump of meat was like a mountain, crushing the general's wife to the point where she couldn't even breathe. But he couldn't bear to use his profound qi. How could he compare to the crazed Yuan Kuang? When General Warlord saw Yuan Kuang's actions, his expression turned extremely ugly. At this time he didn't care whether Yuan Kuang would attack him or not. "General, the young prince is obviously suffering from lust poison. Just find someone to cure him." Dr. Lu quickly finished his words. The Battle King General's footsteps halted. His gaze swept across Fan Jianren, who was closest to him. Suddenly his eyes dimmed. He bent down, grabbed Fan Jianren, and threw him towards Yuan Kuang. Yuan Kuang was fiercely smashed. He raised his bloodshot eyes and stared at Fan Jianren. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the general's wife flipped over, pulled the fine cloth to cover her body, and distanced herself from Yuan Kuang. Ah! Chapter 2346. Before he could stand up, Yuan Kuang pressed down on him. Just like the general's wife, he bit Fan Jianren's flesh. Tightly, he tore Fan Jianren's clothes. Fan Jianren struggled. A pill slid down his throat. He widened his eyes in horror and saw Elder Lu, who seemed to be full of righteousness, standing in front of him, sprinkling a bottle of medicine that emitted a strange fragrance into the surroundings. This taste was exactly the same as the taste of the pill he had just fed him. Fan Jianren's heart was alarmed and he was just about to escape, but he had no strength at all. Instead, an indescribable heat surged up. How could Fan Jianren not understand? The medicine that Dr. Lu had just fed him was lust poison. General's wife, let's go out first." Dr. Lu looked at the battle general. "Find some guards and seal this room." If these people are unable to alleviate the young prince's lust poison, then let all the women in the back residence in. This. How could the battle general not understand Dr. Lu's meaning? Kwang is still young, can he withstand this kind of consumption? The medicine I sprinkled around, other than lust poison, I also used the ingredients of the elemental chi pill to grind out the water. Just a drop of it and he will quickly recover his strength. Dr. Lu waved his hand. Young prince's innate talent is outstanding and his physical condition is different from ordinary people, there shouldn't be any problem. The battle general looked at Yuan Kwang who was lying on Fan Jinren's body in heat. He clenched his fists, carried his wife and turned to leave the room. There were more than 10 servants and maids in the room. They naturally heard Dr. Lu's words. Seeing that the battle general really left, they screamed in horror, begging the battle general to let them go. However, the door to the room was suddenly closed. A big lock was placed on the door. In the room, the screams continued. For a long time. In the alley, Yiqing Luo bandaged the woman's wound and was about to carry her back to the inn to look for Jun Qingwu. Just as she bent over, Yiqing Luo's expression suddenly turned cold. Her hand quickly grabbed Kitty Li's arm. The two of them retreated together. Swoosh! A sharp weapon streaked across from Yiqing Luo's direction as it pierced into the ground. The tip of the sharp weapon was still trembling. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as she looked towards the direction where the sharp weapon came from and raised her voice. Who is it? Release Granny Boo. A woman's reprimanding voice came from afar, and soon after, a green lotus figure quickly flew over. The young lady swiftly stood in front of the woman as she straightened her back and stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. The girl was about 14 or 15 years old. Her skin was white and tender and she was extremely delicate and pretty. She gave off a graceful and playful vibe like a girl next door. Especially that pair of watery eyes. Her eyes were extremely clear and just by looking at her, one couldn't help but like her. Grandma Boo. Yiqing Luo glanced at the woman behind the young lady. Is this your grandmother? She's not my grandmother but in my heart she's my grandmother. The woman's eyes grew fiercer and she took out another sharp weapon. You. How can you not know what's good for you? Sister is obviously trying to save that grandmother. You say she's your grandmother, you don't even know how to repay her kindness, and still dare to be fierce to sister. Kitty Li couldn't stand Yiqing Luo being insulted by others, so she immediately rushed forward and blocked Yiqing Luo's way. Chapter 2347. Kitty Li placed her hands on her waist as she snorted coldly. Otherwise, what do you think we are going to do? Don't tell me we are going to lay our hands on an old lady? The lady's eyes widened as she stared at Yiqing Luo and Kitty Li for a while before she retracted her weapon doubtfully. You don't want to kill Grandma Boo, then you are the ones who almost caused Grandma Boo to be beaten to death by Little Prince? Kitty Li's face sunk. What nonsense are you sprouting? We didn't harm Grandma Boo. All right. Yiqing Luo felt her head swelling as she watched the two young ladies chatting away. She grabbed Kitty Li's shoulder and pulled her behind her. Following that, she rubbed Kitty Li's head and smiled at the lady in front of her. We are indeed the people whom Grandma Boo saved earlier. The lady stared at Yiqing Luo as she snorted coldly. Then she ignored Yiqing Luo and Kitty Li. She turned around and squatted down as she gently touched Grandma Boo's face. Her fingers touched Grandma Boo's face for a while before the lady heaved a sigh of relief. She turned her head over and suspiciously sized Yiqing Luo up. You? No medical skills? A little. Yiqing Luo smiled faintly. Her gaze fell onto the lady's hand. Earlier, the lady's action of touching her face was absolutely not just a simple touch. It was as though she had probed the condition of Grandma Boo's body through the skin on her face. It was easy to tell that she had just treated Granny Boo's injuries. This lady was not simple. After confirming Grandma Boo's safety, the lady's enmity towards Yiqing Luo and Kitty Li was reduced. She carried Grandma Boo up. Her petite body carried Grandma Boo but it didn't seem to use much strength. Let's go to Grandma Boo's house first. The lady left a sentence and walked forward. Yiqing Luo paused for a moment before following up. Kitty Li puffed her cheeks as she put on an unhappy look. Sister, let's go look for Sister Wu. Upon mentioning Jun Qingwu, Yiqing Luo was stunned as she rubbed Kitty Li's head. Go to the inn and tell little Qingwu that I will be back in a while. Sister. Kitty Li's bright eyes widened as she pouted and whined. Kitty Li, sister, go with me. Kitty Li will not rush you back to the inn. Sister will not leave Kitty Li. Li will not rush you to go back to the inn. Yiqing Luo was tickled by Kitty Li's adorable look. If we don't head to the inn after some time, little Qing Wu will be worried. By then when she comes out to look for us but can't find us, what should we do? Li's. Yu Qing Li's face Qing Li's and said Qing Ling Ling Li. However, there was still no news from her and Kitty Li. With Jun Qing Wu's temperament, June to June. Jun Qing Li Qing Qing. Qing Ling. Oh, Li. Kitty Li said that her baby was not happy, and that she needed her big sister to kiss, hug, and lift her up to be obedient. Li. Qing King. She stretched out her hand and hugged Kitty Li, patting her lightly. Quickly go and find Xiao Qingwu, I will go back later. Kitty's words Li's Li wagging its little tail upon hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, it eagerly left the alley. Yi Qing Luo immediately followed the lady's footsteps. Maybe she knew that Yi Qing Luo had offended Yuan Kuang and couldn't walk on the main road. The lady led the way, which was a winding path. Not long later they stopped in front of a dilapidated wooden house. The lady pushed the door and walked in. Chapter 23:48. The wooden house wasn't spacious. The furnishings were neat and tidy. Yi Qing Luo's vision was fixed on the wall in the middle of the wooden house, on which hung two black and white portraits. On the portrait there was a young man and a young lady. In front of the portrait, there was a black wooden table with an incense burner. These two people are Grandma Bu's grandson and granddaughter. The lady placed Grandma Bu on the bed, her voice was extremely gentle. She glanced sideways, looking at the two people in the portrait. The light in her eyes gradually became empty, as though she had recalled the past. They are very kind to an outsider like me, they take good care of me. I really like the atmosphere in Grandma Bu's house. The lady's eyes were blurred, with a faint smile on her lips. She could tell. She really liked this family very much. But, looking at the color of the two portraits, and the wooden table and incense burner in front of the portrait, Yi Qing Luo roughly guessed something. Sure enough, the lady took a deep breath, half squatted by the bed and held Grandma Bu's hand. They have already left Grandma Bu for 3 years. Is because of Yuan Kuang? Yi Qing Luo recalled that not long ago, Grandma Bu had pleaded for her. Her heart suddenly tightened slightly. The lady was stunned, her eyes widened, puzzled. How do you know? Because, in front of Yuan Kuang, I could tell that she was sincere in saving me and my sister. Yi Qing Luo closed her eyes. She must have seen me and thought of her granddaughter and grandson, and couldn't bear for us to die in Yuan Kuang's hands. Yes, Grandma Bu has always been a kind person. The lady's brows were filled with gentleness. I've heard about the situation at that time. Grandma Bu must have wanted to use her own life, in exchange for yours and your sister's. Yi Qing Luo kept silent. There was really such a good person in this world. They obviously didn't know each other. But at the critical moment she resolutely chose to protect her. Luckily none of you were injured and that steward Fan also got what he deserved. The lady's voice suddenly became more ruthless. She raised her head, her eyes were filled with coldness. That kind of person can't be allowed to die so easily. Just like that, abolish his rights as a human. Turn him into a cripple and let others trample on him. Hearing the lady's indignant voice, Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched slightly. She would cripple Steward Fan. It was also because of this. That kind of person, how many heartless things had he done by Yuan Kuang's side? How many innocent people's blood had his hands been stained with? For General Steward Fan, death was a release. How could she let Steward Fan die so easily? Crippling him was just the beginning. Grandma Bu's grandson and granddaughter were tortured to death by Chief Steward Fan. The woman's voice was filled with hatred. She clenched her fists, her fingers slightly trembling. I want to take revenge for Brother Bu and Sister Bu, but Grandma Bu won't let me. She doesn't want me to offend the Yuan family because of her. Yi Qing Luo's eyes trembled slightly. She suddenly regretted that she had gone too easy on Steward Fan just now. That's right. The lady suddenly raised her head and looked at Yi Qing Luo, opening her mouth to call out her name, but was stunned momentarily. What's your name? Yi Qing Luo was just about to say her name, but on second thoughts, her name was too resounding in Nirvana realm because of the battle in West Continent. Pausing, she said, Yi Luo. Chapter 23:49. Miao Yi released Grandma Bu's hand and walked towards Yi Qing Luo as she spoke with a grave expression. Miss Yi, General Battle King is not someone to be trifled with. Today you've crippled Steward Fan and injured Little Prince. General Battle King will absolutely not let this matter rest. She frowned. What are you going to do? No problem. Yi Qing Luo shook her head lightly. She came to the northern wave continent just to find the Miaogu clan. The only thing that offended the Yuan family was his face. She waited until she found the Miaogu aristocratic clan and asked them to suppress the goo poison for Ajan. She immediately left the northern wave continent. No matter what Yuan Kuang did, he couldn't pin the blame on her. Of course she could totally change her face. Yiqing Luo expressed, with the disguise technique in hand, the world is mine. You're from another continent, so you don't know what kind of status General Warlord has in the Northern Wave continent. If General Warlord wants to interfere in this matter, you won't be able to escape even if you grow wings. Miao Yi sat down heavily on a chair at the side and rested her chin on her hands. Her watery eyes flickered. Yiqing Luo looked at Miao Yi's extremely adorable dazed look as she shook her head helplessly. This girl's mood swings really quickly. Sometimes it was the wind and sometimes it was the rain. His thoughts were too jumpy. But, this kind of young lady. Their days would be easy and happy. Suddenly Miao Yi slammed the table and stood up. Why don't you hide at my place for a while? My place is very safe, no one can find me. Yiqing Luo expressed that she really didn't want to hide. Miao Yi had already passionately leaned over to Yiqing Luo's side. No matter, don't stand on ceremony. By crippling Chief Steward Fan, you've avenged Brother Bu and Sister Bu. You can be considered my benefactor. Yiqing Luo was just about to reject. However, he heard a rough knock on the door. Yiqing Luo's ears twitched. There were about 20 people outside the door. Moreover, all of them were profounders. Miao Yi had already started walking towards the door. She said unhappily, "Who is it? Can you be quieter when you knock on the door? If I break it, do you guys know how to fix it?" Yiqing Luo's expression sunk slightly, and at the instant when Miao Yi opened the wooden door, her figure flashed and she rolled out from the open window at the corner of the wooden house. Miao Yi opened the wooden door. Neatly dressed guards stood in rows at the entrance, holding 2 scrolls in their hands. As soon as the door opened, the 2 guards barged into the wooden house. Miao Yi's expression changed and she suddenly stood in front of the 2 guards. They were obviously the guards of the Battle King's mansion. Were they here to capture Yi Luo? Move! A guard impatiently grabbed Miao Yi's shoulder and tried to push her away. What are you guys trying to do? Are you trying to force your way into a private residence? Miao Yi staggered a few steps from the shove and wanted to pounce on the 2 guards again. When he turned around, he discovered that aside from Grandma Bu, who was lying on the bed, there was no one else in the room. Her heart, which had been hanging in the air, sank. Fortunately, Yi Luo was not around. After confirming that Yi Luo was not in the wooden hut, Miao Yi regained her confidence. Chapter 2350. Miao Yi's words had successfully awed those 2 guards. Their expressions changed slightly. "Little girl, don't talk nonsense over there." Miao Yi sneered, "Looking at your stance, isn't this trespassing? How am I spouting nonsense? I'm telling you. My grandmother is bedridden and if you disturb her, it might cause her to suffer a shock. If anything happens to her, this concerns the lives of the commoners. I wonder how everyone will spread this news?" The guards were rendered speechless by Miao Yi's eloquence. General Battle King cherished his own wings and this was something that everyone in the Battle King's residence knew. After all, General Battle King was the #1 Battle King in the northern continent. His battle achievements were extremely illustrious and his reputation was well known. In this way, the royal family revered General Battle King but were suspicious of him. They were afraid that Battle King would harbor ill intentions and attempt to rebel. Because of this, General Battle King was unwilling to let his bad reputation spread. As for Yuan Kuang, his character could be said to be created by General Battle King on purpose. After all, Yuan Kuang was still young and he was a rare talent. So Yuan Kuang's tyrannical behavior was pardonable. But General Battle King only limited Yuan Kuang's tyrannical behavior to Qinghua City. Moreover, Yuan Kuang only did things like abducting women, killing people and robbing things. These things were seen by the royal family and they actually enjoyed it. With Yuan Kuang's interference, the royal family would more or less let down their guard towards the Battle King's residence. But the matter of them trespassing and oppressing the commoners was spread to the other continents. General Battle King would absolutely tear these guards apart. Miao Yi raised her brows and scoffed, "Say it quickly, don't disturb my grandmother's rest." The guards opened the scroll in their hands and spoke with a gloomy expression. "This is Little Duke's favored concubine, do you know her?" After the scroll was opened, wasn't it Yiqing Luo who was drawn on it? Miao Yi's lips twitched as she looked like she wanted to vomit. Favored concubine? Based on Yuan Kuang's prestige, he wanted Yi Luo to be his favored concubine? Oh. Seeing the disgusted look on Miao Yi's face, the guard's faces darkened even more. I'm asking you a question. Do you know him or not? Miao Yi dug her ears. I don't know. Can you go now? You don't know him? The guard swept a cold glance at Miao Yi and stared suspiciously at her. You saw the expression of the person in the painting just now. It's not like you don't recognize him, the other guard sneered. Little girl, you should know the consequences of deceiving the Battle King's mansion. I didn't know her from the start. Miao Yi took a few steps back, her little face filled with irritation. What expression do I see in the painting? I'm just thinking that if you can be a beloved concubine with your looks, then I can be a legal concubine. This reason. The guard stared at Miao Yi for a long time. Alright, there was nothing wrong with it. This little girl was indeed more beautiful than the girl in the painting. At this moment, an elderly guard walked in from outside the door. You still haven't asked clearly? Why are you so slow? The two guards hurriedly cupped their fists and bowed. Chapter 2351. Yes. Two guards immediately walked to the bed. Stop. Miao Yi glared at the old guard, rushed to the bed and stopped him with open arms. My grandma is sick, how could she run to the street to plead for someone? Don't tell me you can't find her, so you want to capture her? The guards thought that their actions might affect the reputation of the warlord's mansion. Immediately, the hand that was about to grab the old woman stopped. The old guard's face darkened. Little girl, don't delay the warlord's mansion. You are using the warlord's mansion to bully us commoners. Alright, you can take my bedridden grandmother away. I want to see if your war king's mansion can cover the sky with one hand. Miao Yi got out of the way and took out a ball-shaped object from her pocket. Come. Take my grandma away, kill me. Let's see if you are faster or if I spread the news faster. You. The old guard didn't expect this girl to be so courageous, he couldn't even scare her. Instead they were shocked. This is the signal flare of the 3,000 peach blossom. Do you know where they are? Miao Yi smiled slyly. The old guard's face darkened. The 3,000 peach blossom was a small mercenary group. In this mercenary group there were only women. But this small mercenary group was spread all over the Nirvana realm. They collected all the secrets in the Nirvana realm that people didn't know. It was a place where information was traded. Unexpectedly, this young girl was related to the 3,000 peach blossom. If this signal flare was really fired, what happened today would be spread by the 3,000 peach blossom. The reputation of the warlord general. It would definitely be tarnished. The old guard secretly clenched his teeth. You said your grandma is sick, let me take a look. Miao Yi tightened her grip on the signal flare. Look. The old guard walked forward, the woman lying on the bed, her face pale, her head wrapped in gauze, still oozing blood. She was so weak that she could barely breathe. The old guard looked at the woman's forehead suspiciously. Miao Yi nervously tightened her grip on the signal flare, pretending to be calm. My grandma accidentally hit. Captain. The team ahead found the young prince's concubine. Suddenly, a guard outside the door spoke. The older guard's expression froze. Let's go. Go after them. The wooden house regained its original tranquility. Miao Yi heaved a sigh of relief and went forward to tuck Grandma Bu in. He walked to the door and peeked inside. Groups of guards swarmed forward to chase after them. She furrowed her brows and looked back at Granny Bu. After pondering for a moment, Zhang Xian prepared to leave the room. Suddenly, someone patted his back. Where are you going? Miao Yi shrieked in fright and turned around abruptly. Seeing that familiar face so close to her, she smiled happily and said, Yi Luo. Why are you here? Where were you hiding just now? Close the door properly. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a smile as she turned around and returned to the wooden house. Miao Yi quickly closed the door. I thought, you were discovered by those people. So you want to find me? Aren't you afraid that the Battle King's men will think that you and I are in cahoots? Yi Qing Luo looked at Miao Yi's cautious look as she couldn't help but laugh out. Chapter 2352. We were originally on the same side. This sentence made the smile on Yi Qing Luo's lips warm up a little. This young lady was rather adorable. But they had just met not long ago. This meant that they had become on the same side. One must know that she had offended the Battle King's residents. Yi Luo, you're not intending to hide at my place? What if the people from the Battle King's residence come back? Miao Yi asked worriedly. Yi Qing Luo shook her head. If I don't want to, they won't be able to find me. Furthermore, How could she possibly hide the tricks she had done on Yuan Kuang? It should be about time to proceed according to the plan. Thinking of those guards earlier, they anxiously tried to catch her expression. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she revealed a strange smile. Miao Yi's heart thumped when she saw that. She felt that Yi Luo's smile was beautiful, but it looked horrifying. She felt that Yi Luo was planning something big. I still have friends at the inn. If I don't go back now, they will be worried when they hear the rumors in the city. Yiqing Luo looked at Granny Bu, who was lying on the bed, and took out a medicine bottle from her bosom. Take a pill in the morning and evening, take it for 3 consecutive days and you will be fine. Miao Yi received the medicine bottle blankly. You are leaving? Yiqing Luo looked at the young lady with bright eyes and couldn't help but smiled as she stretched out her hand and patted her delicate shoulder. Can't bear to part with me? Miao Yi immediately lowered her head as her eyes fluttered around. How could I not bear to part with you? I just got to know you. This adorable look made Yiqing Luo's heart warm up. She was used to seeing self-reliant devil-classes students. Used to seeing those scheming and various kinds of brainless scumbags. And to see this kind, without any schemes, easily trusting others, liking someone and treating the other party as her friend without any qualms. This kind of young lady couldn't be said to be silly. It could only be said that her world was extremely clean, extremely pure. Earlier, didn't you say that you and I are on the same side? Trying to cut off all relations with me so quickly? Yiqing Luo teased as she bent down and stared into her eyes. Indeed, Miao Yi's face instantly turned red. I didn't mean that. Done. Yiqing Luo's hand covered Miao Yi's head and rubbed it. If there's a chance, we'll meet again. Take good care of Grandma Bu. Saying that, Yiqing Luo withdrew her hand. She climbed out of the window in the corner. Her red skirt created a beautiful sunset glow in the air. Miao Yi stood rooted to the ground in a daze. She stared blankly at the figure outside the window, waving at her before leaving. His heart inexplicably began to beat wildly. She stiffly raised her hand and slowly moved it to her head. Her slender palm covered the place where Yiqing Luo had touched earlier. He closed his eyes slightly. Yi Luo's hands were so soft and warm, it was just a light touch. She could actually feel the warmth of it. Is this how Big Sister feels? At the corner of her eyes, a tear seemed to roll down and disappear in a flash. After leaving the wooden house, Yiqing Luo speedily headed towards the biggest inn. Kitty Li would follow Jun Qingwu's scent. She and Kitty Li could sense each other, so she would know clearly where Jun Qingwu was. Yiqing Luo didn't walk through the main entrance but swiftly flipped over and went to the second floor of the inn. Passing through a few rooms, she stopped at the room in the corner. You're here. Jun Qingwu's cold voice rang in the room. Chapter 2353. Sister. It's really you? Kitty Li's eyes shone brightly. She quickly threw herself into Yiqing Luo's arms and hugged her, whimpering, Kitty was so worried about you. But Sister Wu didn't let Kitty go out to look for you. Yiqing Luo rubbed the kitten's head and carried her into the room. Jun Qingwu sat by the wooden table. She didn't even lift her eyelids as she spoke indifferently. How long has it been and you've already caused such a huge trouble? You really have no scruples. Apparently, she had already heard of her glorious deeds in Qinghua City. Yiqing Luo released Kitty Li and sat opposite Jun Qingwu as she leisurely poured herself a cup of tea. No choice, my charm is too strong, trouble always comes out to look for me. This trouble is the Battle King's residence. Jun Qingwu raised her beautiful eyes and glanced at Yiqing Luo coldly. The status of the Battle King General in the Northern Continent is not lower than the Patriarch of Qinghua Sect. As long as the Battle King General says a word, not to mention Qinghua City, even the entire Northern Continent, you can only be sneaky and unable to appear openly in the Northern Continent's territory. Yiqing Luo leaned lazily on the wooden table. At most, I'll just change my face. If you change your face then. What about this kitty? Jun Qingwu glanced at the sticky Kitty Li standing beside Yiqing Luo. You also want to change her face. Kitty Li didn't disguise herself from the start. If Yiqing Luo changed her face, then it would be necessary to disguise Kitty Li. But, as a beast, Kitty Li couldn't stand having something smeared on her face. She wouldn't be able to control the beast's blood and wipe off everything on her face. That's not necessary. Yiqing Luo leaned back. Very soon, things will be over. Jun Qingwu raised her brows. You? What did you do? Yiqing Luo mysteriously hooked her lips and didn't say a word. The next day, after Yiqing Luo woke up, Kitty Lee had already brought back the news she had inquired. Yesterday's matter was getting more and more serious. According to rumors, after Chinua City's #1 prodigy Little Prince was carried back to the residence yesterday, he was already bewitched. Although the matter of being bewitched had been suppressed very well, and no rumors had spread. However, he roughly knew, after Yuan Kuang woke up, his personality changed greatly. It was said that Yuan Kuang's courtyard was overflowing with the thick smell of blood. Hearing this news, Yiqing Luo nodded in satisfaction. Looks like the experiment is considered a success. Experiment? Jun Qingwu knew that Yiqing Luo had her own plans, and upon hearing Yiqing Luo's tone, her interest was piqued. What did you do to Yuan Kuang? You want to know? Yiqing Luo raised her brows and asked with a smile. Jun Qingwu remained expressionless. Then, come with me to the warlord's mansion. Yiqing Luo's body softened as she fell onto Jun Qingwu's shoulder. Not only can we watch a good show, we might. She paused and did not continue. He just smiled, then turned around and looked at Kitty Lee. Kitty, what about you? Stay in the inn and continue to gather information for us. Kitty Lee's joyful expression suddenly collapsed. Sister, are you going to abandon Kitty Lee again? Not abandon you, but this is the new task that sister has given you. Yiqing Luo pinched Kitty Lee's trembling ears. Also, do you remember the smell of that lady last night? Chapter 2354. If you're late and we haven't returned, you can go find that girl. Yiqing Luo pinched Kitty Lee's cheek. Her name is Miao Yi and she seems to be friends with Peach. Ask her how to contact Peach. Yesterday she saw the 3000 Peach Blossom signal flare in Miao Yi's hand. If not for his close relationship with Peach Blossom 3000, it was impossible for Miao Yi to have that flare. If Peach was willing to help investigate the Miaogu clan, she would be able to return to the West Continent as soon as possible and help Long Yunjian suppress the parasite poison as soon as possible. Kitty Lee was extremely unwilling, but she wasn't willing to reject Yiqing Luo's request. In the end, he could only use a resentful gaze to send Yiqing Luo and Jun Qingwu off. War King's mansion. The atmosphere was lifeless, and the maids and manservants who came and went had grave expressions. Every one of them walked cautiously and fearfully. Perhaps the atmosphere was too depressing. The guards of the warlord's mansion had loosened up quite a bit. Yiqing Luo and Jun Qingwu easily entered the Battle King's residence. Jun Qingwu peeked through a crack in the darkness and saw the servants coming and going. She raised her eyebrows. What did you do to Yuan Kuang? The entire Battle King's mansion is affected. You'll know soon enough. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes as she gave a devilish smile. Let's go take a look at Yuan Kuang's courtyard first. It was not difficult to find Yuan Kuang's courtyard. The oppressive atmosphere in the Battle King's mansion was caused by Yuan Kuang. This meant that something had happened to Yuan Kuang. The place with the most people and the noisiest place was Yuan Kuang's courtyard. After a short while, the two of them arrived at Yuan Kuang's courtyard. People came and went in the courtyard, and the thick smell of blood filled the air. Yiqing Luo and Jun Qingwu stopped at the corner of Yuan Kuang's bedroom. Outside the bedroom, people came and went, all of them horrified servants. Not far away was the general's wife, who was being supported by the maids and nannies. The general's wife's face was filled with pain and worry. From time to time, she would grab the maidservant beside her and ask about the situation in the room. Every time she asked, the expression on the general's wife's face darkened. Banging sounds could be heard coming from the locked bedroom door. There were also faint screams of men and women crying for help. This lasted for about half an hour. The voices in the bedroom gradually stopped. The general's wife was overjoyed and immediately sent her servant to check on the situation. The maidservant's face was pale, but she did not dare to disobey the general's wife. He had no choice but to move closer to the bedroom. Jun Qingwu, who had been silent for half an hour, was already impatient. Seeing that the door to the bedroom was about to open, she leaned forward a little. Coincidentally, the door was opened and the situation within the room could be seen clearly. Jun Qingwu's expressionless face suddenly froze. A layer of frost gradually appeared at the bottom of his eyes. With trembling hands, the maid unlocked the door. Just as he pushed the door open, he was greeted by two naked women. The two women were covered in blood. Their eyes were wide open as if they hated something. The maidservant screamed and pushed. The two women fell to the ground, motionless. The strong smell of blood assaulted their nostrils. The smell of blood was mixed with a strange smell. It made one's stomach roll and want to vomit. In the bedroom there was blood everywhere. There were naked bodies lying on the ground, motionless. There were men and women. Blood spilled all over the ground. And standing in the middle of the room was a young man who was as fat as a pig, holding a naked woman in his hand. Chapter 23:55. That ferocious look made him look like an animal that was about to devour flesh and blood. Blood dripped down from his mouth. No matter how calm Jun Qingwu was, she was stunned when she saw the scene in the room. Ah! The servant girl screamed and tried to escape. One of his hands held the maidservant's wrist tightly. The servant girl was dragged into the room. Yuan Kuang's mouth was full of blood and his face was bloodthirsty. He quickly tore off the servant girl's dress. Quick! Lock the door, go to the backyard, find some people and throw them in? The general's wife hurriedly ordered the people around her. The guards immediately rushed up and locked the door again. A few more guards rushed to Yuan Kuang's backyard to catch some people. The whole yard was in a panic again. The general's wife pointed at the closed door of the bedroom. Tears streamed down her face as she thought of what she had just seen. It's been a day and a night, why don't they stop? Where is Dr. Lu? Where is Dr. Lu? The general's wife cried hoarsely and her body softened and fell to the ground. The servant girl and the nannies immediately helped her up. The general's wife cried and cried until her vision turned black and she fainted. General's wife. General's wife. The nannies were also panicking. They carried the general's wife on their backs and left the yard in a flurry. The guards caught a dozen women who were desperately crying and begging for mercy. Those women were extremely beautiful. Their cries were indeed heart-wrenching. But the guards did not have the slightest bit of compassion for the fairer sex. After the guards opened the door, the dozen women saw the bloody scene in the room and screamed crazily. There were also a few women who directly pushed the women beside them into the room, broke free from the restraints of the guards and fled outside. But they were quickly stopped by the guards. How could the women be reconciled? As he wrestled with the guards, he was pushed into the room along with the guards. The other guards immediately came forward and quickly locked the door again. They did not care about the other guards who were also locked in. After doing all these things, the people outside the yard breathed a sigh of relief. For them, as long as the door was locked, they would be safe. As for what would happen inside the door, it did not matter. An extremely miserable scream came from inside the house again. In the corner, Jun Qingwu leaned against the wall with a gloomy expression. This is your method of punishment? Yi Qingluo's brows rose as she gave a calm smile. Xiao Wuwu can't bear to do it? Those are all innocent people. Jun Qingwu's face darkened as she recalled the scene inside the door. But Yi Qingluo crossed her arms over her chest, leaned against the wall and laughed lightly. No one is absolutely innocent. Jun Qingwu frowned. Yi Qingluo laughed softly. Do you think? After entering the Battle King's residence, who else can maintain their innocence and purity? It was just a short observation. Yi Qingluo could almost ascertain that the people in the Battle King's residence were all selfish and only for themselves. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so carefree as he watched people being thrown into the house to die one by one. What are you trying to do? Jun Qingwu's expression became increasingly cold as she listened to the mournful cries coming from the bedroom. Yi Qingluo tilted her head as her index finger pressed against her lower jaw. You will know in a while, it should be about time. Jun Qingwu's fingers tightened. Yi Qingluo's lips curled as her lips twitched disapprovingly. Chapter 23:56. After the general's wife left, the servants and guards in the courtyard also couldn't suppress the fear in their hearts. They started to discuss this matter. After Yuan Kuang went crazy yesterday, he had been locked in his bedroom. According to Dr. Lu's account, the 30 over people thrown in had all died in the bedroom in less than 2 hours. Yuan Kuang's symptoms only increased and did not decrease. Helplessly, Dr. Lu could only continue to use medicine to maintain Yuan Kuang's physical strength and constantly send people in to reduce Yuan Kuang's hunger. But Yuan Kuang became more and more brutal. The speed at which he tortured people to death was also getting faster and faster. In just a day and a night's time, there were at least 300 corpses in Yuan Kuang's bedroom. Until now, Yuan Kuang was still the same as yesterday, crazy without any signs of relief. Just like that, the two of them remained silent for about half an hour. A clamor could be heard from outside the courtyard. The general's wife, who had fainted earlier, walked in with a pale face with the help of a wet nurse. Behind her was the tall and sturdy Battle King general in a black robe. The most eye-catching thing was the tall, slender, and beautiful woman standing beside the War King general. The lady was beautiful and had a faint arrogance on her face. She didn't lose the slightest bit of her temperament beside the Battle King General. She was dressed in a green long dress, looking elegant, dignified and noble. After entering the courtyard, the surrounding servants bowed respectfully. That lady took a few steps forward. Her gaze was fixed on the locked door. "Miss Miao, I'll have to trouble you to make a trip." The Battle King slowly caught up with the lady and said in a low voice, "You?" Yi Qing Luo was a little surprised in the dark. The Battle King General actually used "you" to address a young lady. It could be seen that the lady's identity was absolutely not simple. "This is your purpose?" Jun Qingwu's expression changed slightly when she saw the lady. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows, her long and narrow eyes curved. "So, this lady is the Miao family's Miss Miao?" Jun Qingwu's eyes were covered with frost. "If you say you don't know, I don't believe you. Before this, I wasn't sure if she was a member of the Miao family, but your reaction tells me that she is indeed the young miss of the Miao family." Yi Qing Luo put her arm around Jun Qingwu's shoulder. "Xiao Wu Wu looks like you and the Miaogu family are old acquaintances." Jun Qingwu's shoulders twitched. But he wasn't able to shake Yi Qing Luo's hand off. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and said with a cold expression, "Although Miss Miao has appeared, it won't be easy to convince her to suppress Long Yunzhan's parasite poison. Regardless of whether the Miaogu clan and I are old acquaintances or not, you only need to remember one thing. I will not help you." Yi Qing Luo tightened her grip on Jun Qingwu's shoulders as she smiled at her but didn't say a word. Jun Qingwu was right. This was indeed her goal. The Battle King's mansion was the most famous family in the city. The Miaogu clan was another legend of the Northern Wave continent. As a grand faction and grand clan, the Battle King Manor and the Miaogu clan would definitely have some relations. She had poisoned Yuan Kuang. This was the upgraded version of the aphrodisiac used on Lung Fenghua. Unless it was an alchemist or a doctor who was even more powerful than the ghost doctor. Otherwise, there was absolutely no way to discover the strange situation on Yuan Kuang's body. Initially everyone thought that Yuan Kuang had been poisoned by an ordinary poison. Chapter 2357. Naturally, the War King General would suspect that this was no ordinary poison. If General Battle King and the Miaogu family had some dealings, Yuan Kuang's strange situation, General Battle King would definitely think of Gu poison. For his own son, General Battle King would definitely invite someone from the Miaogu family who knew about Gu poison. Yi Qing Luo admitted it. From the beginning, after she knew Yuan Kuang's identity, she had already set up this plan, using the Battle King's residence to lure out the Miaogu family. "The smell of blood is so strong?" Miao Rongrong frowned slightly, showing a displeased expression. "Your son has committed too much evil this time. That's why I've specially invited Miss Miao out of the stronghold this time in hopes that Miss Miao can help my son. Take a look at what's going on." Warlord led Miao Rongrong to the locked door. He looked at the guard at the side. "Open the door." Inside the room, the woman's screams and painful groans were still ringing. The guard's trembling hand took out the key. General. Little Prince is still enjoying himself. If you open the door and hurt Miss Miao, it's all right." Miao Rongrong said indifferently. Her beautiful face was calm. The guard looked at Battle King. Seeing Battle King nodding, he could only suppress the fear in his heart and opened the door with his trembling hand. Miao Rongrong glanced at the blood seeping out of the door and calmly pushed the door open. A strong smell of blood came rushing in. The entire bedroom was filled with bloody corpses. Yuan Kuang grabbed a woman and pressed her on a pile of corpses, like a beast, sitting in the most primitive position. The woman had already stopped breathing. This. "Miss Miao, please forgive me. Since yesterday when my son was brought back to the Battle King's residence, he has been like this. No one can stop him." Battle King looked at the changes in Miao Rongrong's expression, feeling a little embarrassed. After all, Miao Rongrong was just an 18-year-old young lady. She had never been engaged. But to see such a Unexpectedly, Miao Rongrong's expression was very calm, as if she did not care about Yuan Kuang's beastly behavior. "Since yesterday at least 16 hours, he has been like this?" Miao Rongrong frowned and asked casually. The war monarch nodded. Miao Rongrong lifted her foot and was about to enter the room. But the blood and corpses on the ground made her retract her foot. A look of disgust appeared on her face. Just as the War King was about to instruct someone to lure Yuan Kuang out, a voice suddenly rang out. He saw Miao Rongrong standing at the door with her wrist raised. A bug about the size of half a palm suddenly emerged from Miao Rongrong's palm. Miao Rongrong shook her palm. The bug rapidly charged toward Yuan Kuang and burrowed into his nostrils. The War King's heart tightened. Young Mistress Miao, this. Check his body to see if there are any other goo worms, Miao Rongrong explained impatiently. After a while, the insect returned to Miao Rongrong's palm. The warlord immediately asked anxiously, Young Mistress Miao, what's the result? Has my son been poisoned by a goo? Miao Rongrong touched the insect's back, and a strange look flashed across her beautiful face. No, there are no traces of the insect poison in the young prince's body. No. Was Kuang really poisoned? The Battle King's expression changed dramatically as he looked at Yuan Kuang, who was still in the room. Chapter 2358. Battle King's face was ashen, his tall and muscular body swayed slightly. He covered his eyes with his palms, as if he could not digest Miao Rongrong's words. Even Miao Gu tribe's young lady Miao was helpless. His Kuang, oh, would he always be like this? No matter how strong his Kuanger's body was, it could not withstand such consumption. If he kept relying on Dr. Lu's medicine to support Kuang Er's stamina, as time passed, Kuang Er's body would become weaker. It is not impossible to restore the young duke to normal. Miao Rongrong looked at Battle King's dejected expression and showed an arrogant smile. Battle King's body stiffened. He put down his hands and looked at Miao Rongrong. Young lady Miao, are you serious? Can you really restore my son to normal? Miao Rongrong smiled arrogantly, but, General Battle King, you have to tell me who did this to the young duke before I can use the right goo. Use goo? Battle King was startled. He had a clear conflict with these two words. Miao Rongrong glanced sideways at the Battle King and explained with a smile, I'll use the goo to fight poison with poison. Once the poison in Little Duke's body is devoured by the goo, I'll summon the goo back. It won't affect Little Duke's body at all. But a trace of disdain flashed in her eyes. This General Battle King looked down on the goo of their Miao Gu tribe, but at the same time feared their goo. Since he looked down on them, he was afraid. He still had the face to ask Miao tribe for help. If not for her grannies forcing her to build a good relationship with the people of Battle King Manor to prepare for the selection of Saintess in the future, she would not waste her energy to save that kind of disgusting little prince. Although she felt disdain in her heart. But Miao Rongrong did not show any displeasure on her face. Hearing that it would not affect Yuan Kuang's body, Battle King's worried heart also calmed down. Good. Young lady Miao, I will have to trouble you. Battle King was so excited that he did not notice the disdain in Miao Rongrong's eyes. Miao Rongrong raised her hand and pointed inside the house. She looked at Battle King with an arrogant expression. General Battle King, please get someone to calm the young duke down. In this state, I can't use my goo. This commanding and condescending manner caused the War King to frown slightly. However, in the next instant, the warlord hurriedly nodded and looked behind him. Dr. Lu. Dr. Lu took out a medicine bottle from his sleeve, stepped on the corpses on the ground and approached Yuan Kuang. Yuan Kuang suddenly flung the woman in his arms away and reached out to grab the other woman who was so frightened that her body went limp. He stuffed her under his body. Dr. Lu seized the opportunity and slammed the bottle in his hand on Yuan Kuang's head. The powder was sprinkled. Yuan Kuang rolled his eyes, and his restless body suddenly calmed down. However, the bulging muscles and the parts that couldn't be reduced still couldn't be removed. Put on the young prince's clothes and carry him to the guest courtyard next door. The warlord ordered in a deep voice. The guards were still a little afraid. He cautiously moved closer. Seeing that Yuan Kuang had no reaction, he anxiously lifted Yuan Kuang up. After a while, everyone moved to the next courtyard. As for Yuan Kuang's courtyard, Battle King gave the order and directly burned it down. Yiqing Luo pulled Jun Qing Wu and followed closely next door. In the bedroom, Yuan Kuang's fat body was squeezed on the wooden bed. He was already wrapped in a loose sleeping robe. But, he wore his clothes and covered himself with the quilt. Chapter 2359. Miao Rongrong was after all a lady. Battle King was somewhat embarrassed. He lowered his head slightly and said, Miss Miao, I'll leave my son to you. I'll go out and wait for news. After saying that, he immediately walked out of the room. Miao Rongrong didn't hesitate. She walked to the bedside and released her goo worm. The palm-sized worm slowly drilled into Yuan Kuang's nose. General's wife's heart trembled as tears welled up in her eyes. She saw Miao Rongrong walk to the side and sat down. She immediately walked to Miao Rongrong's side and lowered her voice. Miss Miao, my Kuang will he be all right? I will help him clear the poison in his body, but I can't guarantee anything else. Miao Rongrong leaned back gracefully and smiled faintly. General's wife heard the ridicule in Miao Rongrong's tone. There was anger in her heart, but she had no choice but to seek help from Miao Rongrong to save her son. General's wife suppressed her anger and asked worriedly, Miss Miao means Kwang has other problems besides the poison in his body? Miao Rongrong only smiled slightly and didn't answer. This kind of person who grew up in the palm of his parents' hands, how could he not have problems? This weight, this body shape, was the biggest problem that affected his health. Moreover, under the long-term pampering of General Battle King and General's wife, Yuan Kuang ate and drank with no restraint at all. In addition, his private life was chaotic. How could there be no problems? Miao Rongrong's arrogant look made General's wife feel disgusted. Miao Rongrong didn't want to bother with her and she was too lazy to ask Miao Rongrong again. She turned to Dr. Lu and repeated what Miao Rongrong said earlier. Dr. Lu's expression was grave. As a doctor, Dr. Lu naturally understood the meaning of Miao Rongrong's words. But, in the dark, Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as her gaze wandered on Yuan Kuang. Can her goo worm cure your poison? Jun Qingwu frowned slightly and asked coldly. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at her and smiled. Yes. If the poison is cured, then how are you going to get close to the Miao family? Jun Qingwu couldn't understand what Yiqing Luo was thinking about. Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. This is the first step for me to get close to her. Don't you feel that eldest young Miss Miao is very interested in me now? Jun Qingwu, it was not just the Miao family. Even the entire Battle King's Manor's people were probably extremely interested in Yiqing Luo. I don't think you can convince that Miao family member. Jun Qingwu glanced at Miao Rongrong's face. Of course, not everyone is like Xiao Wu Wu, cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Yiqing Luo leaned her body on Jun Qingwu, as she smiled and went close to her ear to tease. Jun Qingwu's body stiffened and the expression on her face froze. Yiqing Luo laughed even more joyfully. As for whether that eldest young Miss Miao will be convinced by me, or whether she's willing to accompany me to save Ajan, that's not something that I need to consider. In any case, no matter what that Miss Miao thinks, the final outcome will be decided by me. Her words were extremely ostentatious, but it was filled with an irrefutable charm. Jun Qingwu's frozen expression unknowingly loosened up a little. She looked at Yiqing Luo and after some time, a complicated emotion flashed past her eyes. Chapter 2360. Indeed, as Yiqing Luo had expected, Miao Rongrong's goo worm had indeed swallowed the poison in Yuan Kuang's body. Yuan Kuang's entire body swelled up. Because he had fainted, he was unable to soothe his sore spot, and it felt like it was about to explode. Yuan Kuang's ferocious and wrinkled face gradually relaxed. The general's wife looked at the changes in her son. His heart, which had been clenched tightly, finally calmed down. His displeasure towards Miao Rongrong's arrogant attitude was also thrown to the back of his mind. The general's wife's eyes were filled with tears as she looked hopefully at Miao Rongrong, who was currently comforting the parasite in her palm. Miss Miao, my Kuanger, how is he now? Miao Rongrong's fingers were still fiddling with the parasite. She did not even lift her eyelids. The toxins in his body have all been devoured by the parasite. The general's wife was so excited that she wanted to hug Miao Rongrong. But when he saw the goo worm in her hand, he got scared and gave up on the idea. The general's wife quickly walked to the bedside and looked at the peacefully sleeping Yuan Kuang. Miss Miao, it's all thanks to you. You're the benefactor of our warlord's mansion. When Kuang recovers, I'll definitely bring him to visit you personally to thank you. There's no need to thank me personally. Miao Rongrong raised her eyes indifferently. Her words were not polite at all. The expression on the general's wife's face changed subtly. Miao Rongrong sensed the general's wife's slight frown and wiped away the disdain in her eyes. She smiled and said, It's rare for General Zhan Wang to ask for my help. Naturally, I will do my best. For now, she still needed the support of the War King's mansion. When the title of the Holy Maiden of the Miao tribe fell on her head, she no longer cared about the Battle King's mansion. Miao Rongrong took a deep breath and suppressed all the strange emotions in her heart. Her slender fingers pinched one of the goo insect's legs. Her expression was a little complicated as she continued, General's wife, if it's possible, I hope that General Zhan Wang can tell me the details of how the young prince was poisoned. Also, if that person is captured, I would like to see her. Seeing that Miao Rongrong's attitude had instantly become more amiable, The general's wife didn't pay much attention to it and focused on Yuan Kuang. Seeing this, Miao Rongrong did not continue to stay. He turned around and left the room. As soon as he opened the door, the War King General came up to him, his face filled with nervousness and anticipation. Seeing Miao Rongrong's calm expression, his bell-like eyes suddenly lit up. "Miss Miao, is it the poison in my son's body?" "Yes." Miao Rongrong nodded. "Dr. Liu, you can examine the young prince carefully again. He should be able to recover after resting for a few days, but what?" the War King asked. Miao Rongrong's expression was slightly dignified. She looked at Dr. Liu and pursed her lips. "This kind of thing, it's not convenient for a woman like me to say anything. If the general has any questions, you can ask Dr. Liu. Dr. Liu knows better than me what will happen next." The battle monarch's tall body suddenly stiffened. He seemed to understand the meaning of Miao Rongrong's words. Miao Rongrong slightly nodded at him. "General, I will go back to the village to rest. If you find any traces of the person who poisoned the young prince, please remember to inform me." Without waiting for the War King's reply, he walked past him and continued forward. Chapter 2361. After Miao Rongrong walked out of the courtyard, she stopped in her tracks. She turned back and fixed her eyes on the direction of Yuan Kuang's room. The expression in her eyes became increasingly complicated. She looked for a long time before she suddenly raised her palm and lowered her eyes. The palm-sized venomous insect in her palm was lying motionless with all four legs facing the sky. The hand hanging by the side of her body curled up into a tight fist. Who was the person who poisoned Yuan Kuang? The venomous insect that she had spent 10 years to cultivate was actually unable to withstand the poison in Yuan Kuang's body. After her venomous insect had swallowed the poison in Yuan Kuang's body, it actually died. The venomous insect that she had spent 10 years cultivating died just like that. Miao Rongrong's eyes flashed a trace of ruthless murderous intent. She clenched her palm. That black venomous insect broke into pieces in her palm. Immediately, she took a deep breath, raised her head high and quickly walked out of the Battle King's residence. In the dark, Yiqing Luo yawned lazily. "The show is over, Xiao Wu Wu, let's go back to the inn." Jun Qingwu cast a disdainful glance at the young lady who was clinging onto her. "Not going to follow the Miao family? Why should I follow her? She wants to see me now." Yiqing Luo raised her brows. "The initiative is in my hands." Just as Yiqing Luo had guessed, Yuan Kuang's poison was indeed cured. But the poison was cured. But Yuan Kuang was completely ruined. For a full 16 hours, Yuan Kuang was like a madman, venting out the poison in the Beast Valley. Even with Dr. Liu's medicine to replenish his energy. But to Yuan Kuang, who was still a growing young man, it was a huge consumption. Moreover, Yiqing Luo's lust poison was not something that could be replenished by ordinary vitality medicine. Yuan Kuang could say that this 16 hours of madness was the last madness he had ever experienced in his life. He had lost the right to be crazy. He had also lost the ability to reproduce. This news was a huge blow to General Battle King and his wife. When the general's wife heard the news, she fainted on the spot. The War King also seemed to have aged several decades. He sat in his chair, unable to come to his senses for a long time. They had been fighting on the battlefield all year round, and their bodies had long been exposed to the wind and rain all year round. Their injuries, big and small, had more or less been affected. In this life, Yuan Kuang was the only son he had. His son had been a genius in cultivation since he was young. Even the Heavenly Academy's class of gods had sent an invitation to Yuan Kuang. Yuan Kuang had always been their hope, their pride. But Yuan Kuang had actually lost the ability to procreate. Didn't this mean that their Yuan family was going to have no more descendants? It's all that woman? How dare you harm Kuang? The rage in the Battle King's heart surged. He slammed the table and stood up. The stone table was smashed into pieces by the wind from his palm. "Send more people. Search. I want you to find that woman even if you have to turn the entire northern wave continent upside down." The warlord ordered through gritted teeth. The atmosphere in Joy City became heavier and heavier. The guards of the Battle King's mansion would search the streets and alleys every day, constantly interrogating anyone they caught. Every inn was also searched by the guards. But no matter how the Battle King's mansion searched, the woman in the portrait seemed to have disappeared into thin air without a trace. Chapter 2362. And at this moment, the main character who turned Qinghua City upside down was sitting leisurely in an extremely luxurious room. Yiqing Luo leaned lazily against the wall, her fair hand holding a white jade wine cup. She sipped the wine in the cup lazily and slowly closed her eyes, as if she was enjoying it. Qing Luo, your portrait has already spread throughout the entire northern continent, are you sure? You still don't intend to go out? A clear female voice came from the opposite of Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo opened her eyes, her charming eyes swept past the lady, and leisurely raised her head and drank a cup of wine. No hurry. You may not be in a hurry, but I am. The lady rolled her eyes and leaned back on the chair. General Battle King and his wife are about to break the door of my Flower 3000 division. Little Tao, don't panic, don't panic. Yiqing Luo put down the wine cup lazily, and her soft body fell onto the table. Her silky black hair cascaded down. It set off the young lady's not considered stunning, but delicate and lovely face, all the more enchanting. The lady sitting opposite Yiqing Luo was the leader of Peach Blossom 3000 Division, Tao Tao. Although Tao Tao was also a student of the Heavenly Academy. But her reputation of Peach Blossom 3000 Division had long been spread far and wide in the entire Nirvana realm. Regarding the matter of Peach Blossom 3000 Division, Tao Tao could apply for leave anytime she needed. The treatment was similar to the two brothers of the Mu family. After all, the Heavenly Academy would receive the latest news from Peach Blossom 3000 Division on the various major academies in the Nirvana realm every 3 months. This time, Tao Tao happened to be investigating in the vicinity of the northern continent. She received a signal flare from Miao Yi. Tao Tao came personally. She didn't expect to meet Kitty Li. Kitty Li was here, so Yiqing Luo would definitely be here too. Hence, that was why the scene was happening. Yiqing Luo led Kitty Li and Jun Qingwu without hesitation to stay in Tao Tao's restaurant. This restaurant on the surface was a restaurant, but in the basement of the restaurant was the base of Peach Blossom 3000 Division in the northern continent. Because of this, no matter how the people from the Battle King's residence or even the royal family interfered, and no one was able to discover Yiqing Luo's existence. What on earth are you planning? Peach's clear eyes stared at Yiqing Luo resentfully, propping up her chin with one hand. Yiqing Luo smiled mysteriously. Heaven's secrets cannot be revealed, also your head. Sitting by the side, Jun Qingwu, who had a cold expression all along, stood up, raised her hand and knocked on Yiqing Luo's head. I've wasted my time sitting here with you for 3 days. Are you in a hurry to find the Miao family or are you not? If you don't want to save Long Yunzhan, then let's return to the West Continent right now. Don't waste everyone's time. Yiqing Luo hugged her head in pain as she shrunk into the chair. Xiao Wu Wu, don't be so agitated. Didn't you say that Zhan would not have any accidents in the next 3 months? So, you're going to waste 3 months like this? Jun Qingwu looked at her coldly. Yiqing Luo's curly long lashes fanned as she suspiciously raised her head, gazing at Jun Qingwu's cold face. Xiao Wu Wu, what on earth are you so anxious about? Jun Qingwu frowned. It's not that I'm anxious about anything, I just don't want to waste time. As she said that, she sat down. I don't know how on earth did your character attract the Overlord's attention. Chapter 2363. Jun Qingwu turned her head away, indicating that she didn't want to waste her saliva on Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo smiled and poured herself another glass of wine. Peach held her chin and glanced back and forth between the two of them, tilted her head and said, The things you asked me to investigate, although I can't investigate 100%, but there is at least 60% of the information, do you want it? Yiqing Luo's hand paused slightly and looked at Peach with a smile. What do you want in exchange? Peach raised her chin in the direction of Jun Qingwu. I am very interested in her, exchange with her information. My hands are tied. Yiqing Luo shrugged. Little Wu Wu is very mysterious, if you want her information you can only interview her yourself. Peach waved an envelope in her hand. Don't want it? Yiqing Luo thought that Peach had learned bad things. She used to follow behind her so admiringly, calling her classmate Yi, but now that they were familiar, she turned her back on her. She glanced sideways and looked at Jun Qingwu, who had a cold and indifferent expression on her face. The only thing I know is that this beauty is not from the Nirvana realm. If I'm not wrong, she should be from the upper realm. Jun Qingwu still had no expression or action. But Yiqing Luo was keenly aware that Jun Qingwu's delicate body had stiffened for a moment. Yiqing Luo smiled and continued, and her status in the upper realm is very high, she should be from a large family in the upper realm. Peach's eyes widened suddenly. Her clear and beautiful eyes blinked excitedly. She stood up and went to Jun Qingwu's side. He was like a koala bear, desperately circling around Jun Qingwu. Upper realm. People from the upper realm. No wonder I couldn't find any information about you. Oh my god, I actually met someone from the upper realm. Peach excitedly clasped her hands together, her eyes were almost bursting with stars. This enthusiastic attitude made Jun Qingwu unable to adapt to it and frowned. Peach was not afraid but even more excited. People from the upper realm are so beautiful. Even if they frown, they are breathtakingly beautiful. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth silently. She's also in disguise now. The stars in Peach's eyes became brighter and brighter. You are still so beautiful after changing your appearance. You must be even more beautiful in person. My goddess, can you tell me more about the upper realm later? Yiqing Luo expressed. Aren't you my little fangirl? She's become Xiao Wu's little fangirl so quickly. Where am I? Peach didn't even look at her. He directly threw the letter in his hand towards Yiqing Luo. Soon after, he wholeheartedly began to pester Jun Qingwu. Yiqing Luo received the envelope, a heavy stack of information. Yiqing Luo leaned back on the chair in satisfaction and began to flip through the envelope in her hands. There were about a dozen pieces of paper in the envelope. Records of the Miaogu clan were written on it. Some of the things that outsiders or very few people knew were written on it. The Miaogu aristocratic clan was a nickname given by outsiders. In fact, the Miaogu clan was only a Miao village that specialized in using gu. There were not many Miao people. Their village only had about 3,000 people at most. And there were no more than 1,500 people who could skillfully use the gu poison. The person who managed the Miao village was called the Miao Patriarch. But the one who was truly respected by the Miao people and worshipped as a god was the Miao Sacred Maiden. Chapter 2364. To become the Holy Maiden of the Miao tribe. 50 years later he could directly ascend to the upper realm. Although the status of the Miao tribe in the upper realm was not as high as in the Nirvana realm, they were respected by the people of the northern continent. However, once he went to the upper realm, it was a symbol of status and strength. It was a historical record that could be recorded in the Miao tribe's genealogy. Moreover, the status of the Holy Maiden's relatives in the Miao tribe would also undergo a tremendous change. Because of this, the talented women of the Miao tribe worked hard to obtain the recognition of the ancient Gu worm and become the next saintess. Coincidentally, this year was the last year of the previous saintess in the Nirvana realm. The women of the Miao tribe were all restless. They were trying their best to obtain the position of the Holy Maiden. For example, Miao Rongrong, whom Yiqing Luo met at the Battle King's residence previously. She was the daughter of the Miao clan leader, the eldest daughter of the Miao clan. He was also the strongest Gu master in Miaogu. Miao Rongrong's reputation was also extremely resounding in the northern wave continent. Could be said that Miao Rongrong was basically already the next Holy Maiden. As long as the current saintess ascended to the upper realm, Miao Rongrong accepted the ancient Gu worm inheritance. Miao Rongrong would become the new saintess. However, regarding the matter of Miao Rongrong becoming the Holy Maiden, there were two elders in the Miao tribe who did not approve of it. As for the reason, it wasn't written in the information. Then he read through the information again. Apart from this saintess, there was no other special information. Yiqing Luo put down the letter and raised her head. He saw Jun Qingwu looking at Peach with a gloomy face. Peach, on the other hand, was holding a piece of paper and a pen, constantly writing and drawing. Her eyes were full of joy. Clearly, Jun Qingwu had no choice but to answer Peach's question. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh when she saw this situation. Even though Jun Qingwu looked cold, she was actually a very soft-hearted girl. He truly had a sharp tongue but a soft heart. Yiqing Luo didn't interrupt their conversation. He turned to look at Miao Yi, who was sitting at the side and staring blankly into space. She got up and picked up another wine glass. She walked to the corner and sat down next to Miao Yi. Miao Yi was startled. She seemed to have just realized that someone was approaching her. She jerked her head up and looked to her side. In front of him, however, was a white hand. "Do you want a drink?" Yiqing Luo's clear voice was extremely gentle and pleasant to listen to. Miao Yi was stunned for a moment before she reached out and accepted the cup of wine. "Why do you look so distracted? Something on your mind?" Yiqing Luo clinked glasses with her as she asked with a light smile. Miao Yi tightened her grip on her wine glass and looked at it. The white wine swayed in the cup. She was lost in thought. Yiqing Luo drank a mouthful of wine as she stooped down and leaned close to Miao Yi as she raised her brows and smiled. "You look so lost in thought, it doesn't seem like the you I saw a few days ago." Miao Yi stiffened. She picked up her wine cup and drained it in one gulp. Immediately after, she laughed dryly and said, "I wasn't lost in thought. I was just a little worried about Grandma Bu." As she spoke, she raised her smiling face. A trace of a smile appeared in her beautiful eyes. "It seems like I've been here for too long. If the warlord's mansion causes trouble for Grandma Bu again, there will be no one to protect her." Chapter 2365. Yiqing Luo pinched Miao Yi's cheek. "Speaking of which, your surname is also Miao. Are you in the Miao family?" "No problem." Miao Yi pushed Yiqing Luo's hand away and rubbed her aching cheek. "There are many people with the surname Miao in the northern continent." Yiqing Luo sighed and leaned back lazily. "If you are from the Miao Gu family, then I don't need to go through so much trouble to set a trap for Miao Rongrong. After all, that Miao Rongrong is not easy to get along with." Miao Yi's eyes dimmed slightly, but the smile on her lips became brighter. "Yes, if only I am from the Miao Gu family, then I can help you." The two of them looked at each other and smiled. But they didn't say a word. Another 2 days passed by. The person whom the Battle King's mansion was looking for had not been found. Everyone in the ingratiating Joy City was discussing the identity of the woman who had caused the Battle King's mansion to turn upside down for a few days. Even the royal family had intervened. There was no news about this lady in the northern continent. As for those commoners who had witnessed the conflict between Yiqing Luo and Yuan Kuang, they had all been secretly massacred by the Battle King's mansion. Because of this, no one knew the identity of the person whom the Battle King's mansion and the royal family were looking for, and the reason for it. But on this day, the matter regarding the conflict between Yiqing Luo and Yuan Kuang was spread out. Moreover, even the matter of Steward Fan being crippled and Yuan Kuang losing his fertility was spread out. When the commoners heard of this news, they almost burst into an uproar. The little marquis who was known as a child prodigy actually lost his fertility? Wouldn't the Yuan family be extinct? And this news made the people from the royal family very happy. Yuan Kuang had lost the right to have offspring, which meant the chances of the Yuan family rebelling would be reduced by half. By the time the Battle King's general found out, this news had already spread all over the northern continent. He couldn't possibly massacre everyone in the northern continent to cover up the truth of this matter. He could only suppress the anger in his heart. He secretly investigated who was the one who spread this news. While they were investigating, there was also news that the Miao family's eldest daughter, Miao Rongrong, had inadvertently revealed this matter, although it was unintentional. However, this matter was known by everyone on the northern wave continent. How could General Zhan Wang still treat Miao Rongrong as unintentional? Then he invited Miao Rongrong back to the War King's mansion. However, Miao Rongrong flatly denied it. She firmly expressed that she had never mentioned anything about the young prince. Miao Rongrong was determined. The War King General could not ask any questions. He could vaguely sense that the direction of this matter was a little strange. Miao Rongrong's face darkened. She slammed the table and stood up. "Could it be that woman? Is it the work of the woman who poisoned young prince?" The warlord general's eyes suddenly dimmed. That bitch is probably not in the northern wave continent anymore. Otherwise, how could she have escaped our search? Chapter 2366. The War King's expression suddenly turned solemn. His brows tightened as he looked at Miao Rongrong with a serious expression. "Miss Miao, you mean?" Miao Rongrong's red lips curled up slightly as she met the War King's eyes with a faint smile. "War King, have you ever thought, apart from the 3,000 peach blossoms, who else has the ability to quickly spread this matter to the people of the northern continent?" Her words caused the War King's hand, which was resting on the chair, to tighten. With a crack, the armrest of the chair was broken. The War King's eyes were burning with rage. "That bitch. She ruined my son's life, and now she wants to destroy the War King's residence." The War King gritted his teeth and dragged the portrait to the side. In the portrait, the woman smiled in contempt. That pair of long and narrow eyes seemed to be mocking him. The War King roared and quickly tore the portrait in his hand to pieces. Who in the northern continent would have the guts to target the War King's residence? Miao Rongrong lowered her eyes and looked at the shredded paper at her feet. The shredded paper at her feet happened to be one of the woman's eyes. Miao Rongrong frowned slightly. She inexplicably felt a sense of disgust towards this eye. She lifted her foot and stepped on the paper. Miao Rongrong's words caused the War King's expression to darken. The War King naturally understood what Miao Rongrong meant. The northern continent dared to target the War King's residence and actually took action. Apart from the imperial family, there was no one else. This time, the imperial family had interfered in this matter. They were also helping them find the whereabouts of that woman. But, could it be that the imperial family wasn't deliberately putting on a show for them to clear their suspicions? If that woman was from the imperial family, the War King's eyes shot out a sharp, cold light. Murderous intent swept through the depths of his eyes. Miao Rongrong clearly saw the change in the War King's emotions. She raised her lips and smiled meaningfully. Master, but why would the imperial family use such a method? That kind of poison is something that even physician Lu couldn't detect. Behind the imperial family, is there an expert? The general's wife was frightened and immediately put her hand on the War King's shoulder. The War King's body stiffened. He thought of the day when Yuan Kuang went crazy and the general's wife was on top of him and tore his clothes. The war monarch felt extremely disgusted. That day the situation was very chaotic. Who knew? Did Yuan Kuang give the general's wife to? However, there was a guest nearby. No matter how disgusted the War King was, he endured the feeling. Speaking of which, I do have a piece of news. Miao Rongrong's fingers lightly tapped on the wooden table. The corner of his mouth curled up into a smile, revealing a trace of disdain. The expression on his face became more and more arrogant. The War King was not in the mood to pay attention to this. What news? It is said that a master has indeed come to the northern wave continent. His identity is very mysterious. Even our Miao tribe's Gu technique is unable to identify the master. Miao Rongrong picked up the cup of tea and lowered her head to take a sip. If Battle King really wants to find that mysterious woman, why don't you test the sovereign's intentions? Also, send someone to investigate the 3,000 peach blossoms. After that, Miao Rongrong put down the teacup and stood up. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. Wait. The War King raised his hand and blocked Miao Rongrong's path. This matter has not been investigated yet. Miss Miao, please stay in the War King's residence for the time being. Also, help my son investigate if there's any way to cure him. Chapter 2367. How can this be considered as imprisonment? The War King chuckled. Young Lady Miao saved this general's only son. This general must thank young Lady Miao for saving this general's son. No need. Miao Rongrong's face darkened slightly as she pushed his arm away and was about to leave. Battle King remained motionless. Miao Rongrong frowned slightly. General Battle King, what is your intention? Since young Miss Miao has already cured Kuanger of his poison, then you should help Kuanger cure his problem as well. Battle King smiled amiably. I believe that Chief Miao will not reject my request. Miao Rongrong's eyes turned cold. She didn't expect Battle King to treat her like this. He even dared to use the Miao tribe to threaten her? Her eyes were cold as she clenched her fists. I only know how to cast spells, I am not a doctor. I can't solve Little Prince's problem. Then I can only trouble Miss Miao to stay in the Battle King's residence until Little Prince is completely healed. The War King let out a cold laugh. His tough and stern face had regained the dignified handsomeness he once had on the battlefield. Guards, send Miss Miao to Little Prince's room and keep a close watch. If there is any mistake, I will personally bring your corpse to the Miao tribe to apologize. Battle King's words directly blocked Miao Rongrong's escape route. If Miao Rongrong wanted to sneak out, Battle King would directly go to the Miao tribe to find trouble with her. Now was the crucial time for the selection of the sacred maiden. Miao Rongrong must not have any dirty secrets leaked out. Miao Rongrong naturally couldn't let Battle King bring this matter to the Miao tribe. Seeing Miao Rongrong being taken away by the guards with a gloomy face, Jun Qingwu on the roof looked at the calm Yi Qing Luo, as if she already knew these things would happen. Her cold eyes flashed a trace of doubt. How can you be so sure that Battle King will imprison the Miao family? After all, the last time she was squatting in the corner, Battle King's attitude towards Miao Rongrong was extremely respectful. How could Yi Qing Luo be so sure that Battle King had the guts to imprison Miao Rongrong? Yi Qing Luo's body softly leaned against Jun Qingwu, because he is a Battle King. The Battle Monarch was an extremely respected person in the Northern Wave continent. Even the royal family had to give him some face. Moreover, they were on equal footing with one of the four great sects, the Elation sect. How could he possibly be willing to lower his voice to anyone? That day, Battle King had a favor to ask of Miao Rongrong. Naturally, his attitude was excellent. Now Miao Rongrong was relying on her identity as the Miao family's young miss and the fact that she had saved Yuan Kuang. Thus he put on an arrogant look and acted like he was in charge of everything. He even wanted to sow discord between the Battle King and the royal family. The War King was no fool. He had fought on the battlefield for many years and had always been invincible. How could it be based on his strength alone? If he didn't have a brain, he wouldn't have been able to survive until now. How could the War King not see through Miao Rongrong's plan? How could he tolerate Miao Rongrong? He could only say that Miao Rongrong thought too highly of herself. As for War King, perhaps he had never trusted Miao Rongrong. Before he caught Miao Rongrong, Battle King would never let Miao Rongrong leave. Of course, unless Miao Rongrong really had a way to cure Yuan Kuang's infertility. You're so smart. Jun Qingwu rolled her eyes. But in Jun Qingwu's heart, she really admired Yi Qingluo. She really couldn't understand Yi Qingluo's confident look, as if she was in control of the whole situation. Where did it come from? Chapter 2368. Yi Qingluo smiled sweetly. Yes, I'm the smartest. Jun Qingwu rolled her eyes at her. She was simply shameless. Yi Qingluo smiled as she lowered her eyelids and looked into the room, at General Battle King, who was discussing something with the general's wife. Yi Qingluo's slender fingers touched her chin. It's about time to show up. Now. Jun Qingwu was slightly surprised. Not now, Miao Rongrong sighed. It's not time for her to act up yet. Yi Qingluo shook her finger. Miao Rongrong was the eldest daughter of the Miao tribe leader. Outstanding strength, proud and arrogant. Such a woman, even if he forcefully brought her to the western continent and wanted her to suppress the parasite poison for Long Yunjian, it would be impossible. He was afraid that Miao Rongrong would do something in secret. After all, none of them knew how to use goo poison. To make Miao Rongrong willingly help, the only way was to take out an equivalent price to make a deal. Miao Rongrong cared about herself the most. Looking at Yi Qingluo's crafty smile like a fox, Jun Qingwu knew that Yi Qingluo still had a backup plan. And this backup plan was enough to shake Miao Rongrong, enough to make Miao Rongrong willingly follow Yi Qingluo back to the West Continent. Jun Qingwu couldn't be bothered to ask what Yi Qingluo had done. Just as he was about to leave with Yi Qingluo, Jun Qingwu's gaze suddenly turned dark and gloomy. Her line of sight quickly swept across the surroundings. Following that, he grabbed Yi Qingluo's arm tightly, his expression congealed. Someone's coming. At the next instant, Yi Qingluo felt her body turning light, and under Jun Qingwu's strong tug, she had already arrived at a more secluded courtyard. Yi Qingluo still hadn't figured out what had happened. Jun Qingwu had already signaled her with her eyes to restrain her aura and not make a sound. It was rare to see Jun Qingwu so serious. Yi Qingluo's expression started to congeal slightly. Jun Qingwu must have sensed some powerful energy to have such a reaction. She, on the other hand, could not sense any abnormal energy. In other words, the source of that power had already exceeded the range of her senses? This courtyard, Yi Qingluo frowned tightly and held her breath, not daring to make any noise. Facing an unknown enemy and unknown power, Yi Qingluo naturally didn't dare to be as relaxed as before, squatting at the corner of War King's wall. He followed Jun Qingwu to the rear window of the courtyard. Just as he approached, he then heard a woman's voice, which was deliberately lowered, coming from inside the house. I've already brought your message to the warlord's mansion. I've also completed the task that you've given me. I want to leave the warlord's mansion immediately now. This voice was as arrogant as ever. It was Miao Rongrong's voice. As it turned out, this secluded courtyard was the place that the Battle King's mansion had arranged for Miao Rongrong. In other words, that powerful and mysterious force was looking for Miao Rongrong? The power in the room was too strong. The two of them didn't dare to get too close. He could vaguely hear Miao Rongrong's hysterical roar. What do you mean? Are you trying to burn the bridge after crossing it? If it wasn't for you forcing me to bring a message to the warlord's mansion to sow discord between the warlord and the sovereign, how could I be imprisoned in this damned place? I'm telling you, if you don't get me out of here immediately, our cooperation will be over. Yi Qingluo and Jun Qingwu listened attentively. Nor did he hear the other person's voice. Chapter 2369. He seemed to have received a definite answer. There was a hint of excitement in Miao Rongrong's tone. Good. As long as you help me obtain the position of Saintess and help me obtain the recognition of the ancient goo worm, I will do my best to help you with whatever you want. As soon as he finished speaking, Jun Qingwu's grip on Yi Qingluo's wrist loosened. His tense emotions also loosened up. Yi Qingluo knew that the mysterious and powerful energy had already disappeared. Let's go and take a look. Jun Qingwu lowered her voice. Following that, he pulled Yi Qingluo's hand and went closer to that tightly shut window. Jun Qingwu's fingers moved slightly. An extremely weak stream of light pulled open the window. His subtle movements were like a cool breeze. Miao Rongrong, who was in the room, did not notice at all. Through the gap of the slightly opened window, Yi Qingluo saw Miao Rongrong sitting in front of the round wooden table, with a determined smile on her lips. Clearly he had just gotten a definite answer and was in a very good mood. Yi Qingluo frowned slightly as she asked in a low voice, "Isn't Miao Rongrong the eldest young miss of the Miao family? Wasn't the next holy maiden going to fall on her head without any suspense? She still needs external help?" Jun Qingwu rolled her eyes at the series of questions. Jun Qingwu didn't answer but continued, "There are still people from the upper realm who came to the lower realm? That person's power is very strong. Even you feel pressured?" Yi Qingluo recalled Jun Qingwu's grave expression earlier as she narrowed her eyes and asked. Jun Qingwu glanced at her indifferently. "When you reach the upper realm, you will naturally understand the difference between the so-called upper realm and this lower realm." Yi Qingluo shrugged her shoulders. If she wanted to go to the upper realm, it would probably take a long time. She put away these messy thoughts and looked at Miao Rongrong, who was still laughing. The regulations of the upper realm should not allow anyone from the upper realm to intervene in the matters of the lower realm. But, according to what Miao Rongrong just said, that person is interfering in the affairs of the Northern Wave Continent. Miao Rongrong's words to General Battle King today all had a purpose. It was all the will of that mysterious and powerful person. What Miao Rongrong had said to War King today, not only did he sow discord between the War King and the 3,000 peach blossoms, it was also to sow discord between the War King and the royal family. Every single word was pushing the blame for Yuan Kuang's death onto the royal family. On top of that, he even revealed that the royal family had invited a mysterious expert over. An expert that even her Miao tribe's Gu technique had a headache. It didn't matter whether the War King Xiang believed Miao Rongrong's words or not. Miao Rongrong's words would become a thorn in Battle King's heart. Both of them would leave an unerasable mark in the Battle King's heart. That person, what was the purpose of using Miao Rongrong to sow discord between the Battle King and the imperial family? "I will send a message to Di Zun." Jun Qingwu retracted her gaze and said indifferently, "Di Zun will be back to accompany you soon." "Ah Xian?" Yi Qingluo's eyes lit up. "Ah Xian is going back to Nirvana realm?" Looking at Yi Qingluo's sparkling pupils, Jun Qingwu pursed her lips. He noticed that Jun Qingwu's mood had dropped. Chapter 2370. Jun Qingwu's stiff body softened bit by bit under Yi Qingluo's soft words. Her ice-cold face was flushed red. She shook off Yi Qingluo's hand and hurriedly left. "Gotcha." Jun Qingwu stepped on the withered branches in the courtyard. Both of them paused for a moment. Inside the house, Miao Rongrong screamed in panic, "Who is it?" At the same time, Miao Rongrong followed the sound and quickly rushed to the window, looking around. In the remote backyard, withered trees were overgrown and the ground was covered with yellow leaves. But there was no one. Miao Rongrong revealed a vigilant look and released her senses to sense the surrounding unfamiliar aura. Her eyes were also searching around in alarm. But after a sweep, she didn't detect any unfamiliar aura. On the ground there were no footprints. It should be the sound of the withered branches being blown by the wind. Outside the courtyard, Yi Qingluo grabbed Jun Qingwu's wrist, panting heavily. "So close, our profound grades are all above Miao Rongrong, so she didn't notice." Yi Qingluo leaned against the wall and laughed softly. This was probably the first time Jun Qingwu was so embarrassed. Earlier she was actually teased by Yi Qingluo and forgot where she was. That's right, tease. She was teased by a woman. Jun Qingwu expressed that Yi Qingluo was really poisonous. Yi Qingluo looked at Jun Qingwu's face. It was a mixture of green and red. Blushing and embarrassed. She didn't tease Jun Qingwu anymore. "Let's go to Peach first and tell her the news that Battle King is also suspicious of the 3,000 peach blossoms." Jun Qingwu pursed her lips tightly, obviously still in the midst of embarrassment. She didn't bother about Yi Qingluo and flew away from the Battle King's residence. TSK. Little Wu is so shy. Yi Qingluo touched her chin and smiled helplessly. Her cool and elegant persona was all gone. Another day had passed. The 3,000 peach blossoms informant passed the latest news to Yiqing Luo. Miao Rongrong was seriously ill. On the second day of being imprisoned in the Battle King's residence, she was bedridden and unable to get up. No, to be more precise, it was more terrifying than a serious illness. Because Miao Rongrong's whole body was weak. She was sweating profusely and vomiting blood. The blood he spat out was black. It was as black as ink. The entire warlord's mansion felt a chill run down their spines. But Dr. Lu couldn't find any problems. At first, the Battle King thought that it was Miao Rongrong's trick. However, every time Miao Rongrong vomited blood, her body became weaker. Furthermore, the ink-like substance that he spat out was indeed blood. Only then did the War King panic. Miao Rongrong was after all the eldest daughter of the Miao tribe. If he was in the War King's mansion and ended up like this, even if he didn't know about it, the Miao tribe would blame it on the Battle King's mansion. After wasting a whole day, Miao Rongrong could only exhale but not inhale. The War King had no choice but to head to the Miao Stockade village and request the Miao tribe leader to save Miao Rongrong's life. Less than an hour after the warlord left, a petite figure appeared in Miao Rongrong's ward. Although Miao Rongrong's mind was in a trance and she was suffering from the faint pain, she was still able to control herself. But his consciousness was still clear. When she saw that there was one more person in her room, she squinted her eyes and stared at that person with hazy eyes. It was hazy and she couldn't see the person's face clearly. Chapter 2371. Who are you? Miao Rongrong's throat was dry. The words that came out of her mouth were like a breath of air, without any sound. However, the figure by the bedside seemed to have heard her words and slowly moved a little closer. Miao Rongrong's heart was inexplicably filled with fear. Don't come over? Are you sure you don't want me to come over? The girl's clear and sweet voice, with a faint smile, flowed into Miao Rongrong's heart like a gurgling stream. That voice was extremely unfamiliar. Miao Rongrong was sure that she had never heard this person's voice before. The inexplicable uneasiness in her heart surged. She could not even feel her weak breathing. She opened her mouth, wanting to speak, but still did not have the strength to speak. That clear and sweet voice of the girl rang in her ears again. I'm the only one who can save you. If you really want to refuse me, just pretend that I have never been here today. Save her? These two words made Miao Rongrong's expression suddenly freeze. Her weak body suddenly closed her 5 fingers. Almost exhausting all the strength in her body, Miao Rongrong spat out a sentence so soft that it could not be heard. You are the one who poisoned the young prince? Yes, she had seen that portrait. The woman in the portrait was dressed in a blazing red dress. This person, the one who poisoned Yuan Kuang and infected her with the remaining poison. This little bitch, she had appeared. Miao Rongrong's breathing quickened. Her weak fingers wanted to clench the quilt under her body, but she could not exert any strength at all. The petite figure placed her legs on the edge of the bed and bent down slightly. The girl's clear and beautiful face was reflected in Miao Rongrong's eyes. That face, that smile, that gaze, it completely overlapped with the woman in the portrait. Miao Rongrong was so shocked that her heart suddenly twitched violently. For a moment she could not breathe properly. The feeling of suffocation made Miao Rongrong's pale face almost pale. She fluttered her hands weakly, trying to smooth out her chest. But she could not exert any strength. Her body began to twist little by little. It seemed that at any time if she could not breathe properly she would completely lose the chance to breathe. Miao Rongrong's eyes widened. His ink-colored pupils gradually became empty. Miao Rongrong could almost feel that she had touched the edge of death. Oh! Suddenly a fishy smell filled his nostrils. Something was stuffed into his mouth. An indescribable smell blended with the stench. Miao Rongrong was so agitated that she suddenly sat up from the bed. She lay on the edge of the bed and vomited. Miao Rongrong vomited until her stomach ached. She leaned weakly against the headboard and gasped for breath. By the time she regained her senses, Miao Rongrong abruptly raised her head and stared venomously at Yiqing Luo. You slut! What the hell did you put in my mouth? Just thinking about the smell. Miao Rongrong had an urge to vomit. She clenched her fists tightly and fiercely punched the face of the young girl who was still smiling like a flower. A blood-curdling scream was heard. Miao Rongrong hugged her arm in pain as her body heavily knocked against the foot of the bed. What I stuffed is naturally the antidote to ease your pain. The young girl leisurely sat down by the bed. She looked like she was only 14 or 15 years old. She looked like she was obedient and could be bullied by anyone. Chapter 2372. She was afraid of the young lady in front of her. He was fearful for no reason. Miao Rongrong suppressed the restlessness and uneasiness in her heart, trying hard to make herself look calmer. She took a deep breath and met Yiqing Luo's gaze with a cold expression. What you fed me earlier was the antidote? It was no wonder that the stench from earlier had filled his nose. Her spirit and consciousness had returned. Even her strength had gradually returned to her body. It was like the final radiance of a setting sun. This thought made Miao Rongrong's heart tremble. The expression on her face turned colder. Who are you? Why did you do it to little prince and even implicate me? Do you know who I am? What I fed you is not the antidote. Yiqing Luo answered Miao Rongrong's first question in a neither fast nor slow manner. Following that, she answered the next question leisurely. As for me, I am naturally the one who came to make a deal with you. As for me, I did not implicate you, but little prince was implicated by you. Of course I know who you are, otherwise I wouldn't have come to look for you. This leisurely voice sounded extremely lazy. One by one the expression on Miao Rongrong's face cracked bit by bit. The raging anger spread from the bottom of her heart. Her face was twisted, and she clenched the bedding under her into a ball of wrinkles in an extremely terrifying manner. Yiqing Luo raised her brows, admiring Miao Rongrong's frenzied look. She shook her head in disappointment. What happened to the promised eldest Miss Miao, the #1 Gu master? Her endurance was only at this level? Just a few words and she was forced to lose control? Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly, propped one hand on the side of the bed, gazing at Miao Rongrong with a smile yet not a smile. Eldest Miss Miao, the medicine I fed you can at most ease you for 4 hours. After that, you will return to the state just now. What are you trying to do? Miao Rongrong thought of that torturous feeling earlier, and her body couldn't help but tremble. You cure me, I will cure you. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly, smiling faintly. Miao Rongrong's pupils enlarged. Cure? She stood up abruptly. He lowered his head and looked at the smiling girl sitting by the bed. She couldn't find any traces of goo worms on the young girl's body. Yes, it's a very complicated kind of venom, perhaps you can't cure it. Yiqing Luo allowed Miao Rongrong to size her up. I can't solve it? Miao Rongrong frowned. Her greatest pride was being the eldest daughter of the Miao tribe leader, the eldest daughter of the Miao tribe. He had an extremely powerful voodoo talent. He was the most popular goo master in the Miao village. This young girl dared to doubt that she could not cure the goo? However, Miao Rongrong suppressed her anger and said with a sullen face, since I can't solve it, you still want to scheme against me? If you can't solve it, you will be buried with me. Yiqing Luo smiled calmly. Miao Rongrong was speechless. She wanted to curse out loud. Was she King crazy? All in all, this deal, are you going to do it or not? Yiqing Luo stood up slowly, her posture elegant as she brushed the hair by the side of her face. Her appearance was elegant and noble to the extreme. Miao Rongrong's 5 fingers were about to break the flesh of her palm. She suppressed her anger and between her brows she said, do it. No matter what, she didn't want to experience that kind of pain again. That kind of pain was even more painful than the feeling of a goo worm in her body. Yiqing Luo smiled satisfactorily. Her smile was extremely arrogant and noble, as though it was above Miao Rongrong's head. Chapter 2373. That attitude, that tone. It felt like he was talking to a pet. Miao Rongrong's pale face gradually twisted into a sinister expression. Since I've promised you, can you cure me of the poison now? I can't. Yiqing Luo straightforwardly rejected. It's only fair to hand over the money in a transaction. You should at least cure me of the goo poison before I cure you of the poison in your body, isn't that so? My ass. Miao Rongrong was so angry that her whole body trembled. She totally didn't know Yiqing Luo and had no grudges with her. Yiqing Luo had poisoned her out of the blue. How could he talk to her about fairness now? Was he teasing her? As though she had seen through Miao Rongrong's thoughts, Yiqing Luo nodded smilingly, yes. Miao Rongrong almost choked on her anger. She stared at the elegant face in front of her. That confident smile seemed to be laughing at her wretched state. The killing intent in Miao Rongrong's eyes could not be concealed at all. Yiqing Luo saw it clearly. However, he didn't care about this at all. She didn't care about Miao Rongrong's attitude towards her. In any case, if Miao Rongrong wanted to live, she had to be obedient. Then prepare yourself and leave the northern continent with me. After the goo is cured I will let you go. Yi Qing Luo didn't waste any more time talking nonsense with her as she directly requested. Leave. Miao Rongrong abruptly raised her head. I won't leave the Northern Wave continent. At the very least he couldn't leave at this critical juncture. Who was this girl in front of her? What was her identity? What was her purpose in asking her to cure the goo? She didn't know any of this. Just like that he followed her and left the Northern Wave continent, leaving the territory that belonged to her. If this girl really wanted to kill her, what room did she have to resist? But it's not up to you to choose now. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head awkwardly, her charming eyes blinked, bright and innocent. Now you're the one begging me. Miao Rongrong's chest felt stuffy and even breathing became difficult. Tc. She was indeed a slut. No matter what he did he was so cheap. Miao Rongrong was furious. She didn't want to die. He did not want to die in that kind of extreme pain. Suddenly Miao Rongrong's eyes darkened. Didn't War King go to the Miao tribe to invite her father out of the village? As long as her father came, the poison in her body would definitely be cured. Furthermore, father would definitely subdue this slut. As long as he could delay the little slut, everything would be over once his father arrived. Miao Rongrong's eyes flickered and she said, I can leave the Northern Wave continent with you but not now. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as her eyes narrowed slightly. Before she could say anything, Miao Rongrong continued, I can't leave the Northern Wave continent for at least 2 months. Yi Qing Luo's half-squinted eyes reflected a sharp glint. Miao Rongrong suppressed the fear in her heart and met her gaze. She tried her best to calm her emotions and said, the selection for the Holy Maiden is in 2 months. All my efforts are for the sake of becoming the Holy Maiden. So, no matter what, before the Saintess candidate is decided, I will never leave. As she spoke, her hands under the bedding clenched tightly. The pain from her fingernails cutting into her skin made her slightly trembling voice become much more normal. The Holy Maiden selection. Miao Rongrong was not lying. Chapter 2374. But she didn't have much patience to wait for Miao Rongrong for 2 months. Moreover, if Miao Rongrong became the sacred maiden, would she still listen to her obediently? Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly and was about to open her mouth. Miao Rongrong had already sat up straight and quickly spoke first. If I lose the qualification to become the sacred maiden, then I'd rather die. If you force me to leave the North Continent now, then kill me now. Between her brows, there was an unquestionable firmness. You specifically came to the Northern Wave continent and set up one scheme after another. You wanted me to cure you of the parasite. Presumably, you also know that in the entire Miaogu clan besides me no one can cure you of the parasite. She smiled, her eyes filled with confidence. I have confidence that there is no one else in the Miaogu family who can help you. Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips. It wasn't that she couldn't tell Miao Rongrong's persistence towards the sacred maiden position. Miao Rongrong had already cooperated with people from the upper realm for the sacred maiden position. That was enough to represent that Miao Rongrong was determined to get the sacred maiden position. She was forcing Miao Rongrong to leave now. There was a possibility that Miao Rongrong would really go all out with her. Other than Miao Rongrong, she really couldn't find anyone else. Someone who could go with her to the West Continent. Don't talk nonsense like bringing the Miao clan leader to the West Continent. Miaogu family. Miaogu village. If she really kidnapped their clan leader to the West Continent, then she could forget about peace forever. Most importantly, towards goo worms she didn't know much. If she angered the Miao people, one by one they would plant goo worms on her, casting goo spells or something. She would be in big trouble. Yi Qing Luo pondered for a moment and fished out a medicine bottle from the profound phoenix ring. 2 months, if you want to play any tricks, I can guarantee you that the pain you are going to suffer will not only be as severe as what you just suffered. She shook the medicine bottle. The sound of the pills colliding was extremely crisp. She poured out 1 pill and passed it to Miao Rongrong. I will send you 1 pill every day to suppress the poison if... Little beauty. Suddenly the tightly shut door was kicked open. She saw a lump of fat speedily rushing into the room. Little beauty, it's really you. Why are you here? Are you here to look for me? That person was Yuan Kuang. These past few days, Yuan Kuang's body had deteriorated after going berserk. He had been nursing his body. Today he heard that the young lady of the Miao family who had cured him of the poison was a guest at the War King's mansion. Yuan Kuang had heard that this Miss Miao was extremely beautiful. Thus, he hurried over without stopping to rest. But he had never expected that he would actually see the little beauty that he had been thinking about day and night. That lump of fat was running quickly. The whole room was shaking. The furnishings in the room were also trembling non-stop. Yiqing Luo knitted her brows. Why did this little wimp also come? Moreover, what was with this enthusiastic attitude? She poisoned him. Not only did it turn him into a laughingstock, but it also made him lose the ability to produce offspring for the Yuan family. How could he still be so passionate about her? Wasn't he a little too ambitious? Bang! Just as Yiqing Luo's attention was placed on Yuan Kuang, Miao Rongrong, who was sitting on the bed, suddenly stood up. She grabbed Yiqing Luo's wrist and forcefully snatched the medicine bottle from her hand. Following that, Miao Rongrong quickly stuffed the medicine bottle into her clothes and with a leap, she rolled out of the window. Slut. Just you wait. Do you think that only you know how to poison? Miao Rongrong's shrill voice came along with the wind. By the time Yiqing Luo walked to the window. Chapter 2375. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes and took a look at the pill in her hand. She clenched her fingers and crushed the pill in her palm. She placed one hand on the window and was about to turn over and chase after him. Behind him, he felt an extremely passionate aura charging towards him. She knitted her brows tightly and gave up the idea of turning over the window as she swiftly moved her body away. Bam! A heavy collision sound was heard. Yuan Kuang's fat body crashed into the window which Yiqing Luo was standing on earlier. A body of fat was squeezed on that half-open window, looking extremely oily. Yiqing Luo pouted her lips in disgust and couldn't be bothered with him as she turned around to leave. Little beauty. Little beauty. Yuan Kuang used all his strength and dug out his flesh from the window. While shaking his fat, he rushed towards Yiqing Luo. Little beauty, you must be looking for me, right? I am the #1 child prodigy in Qinghua City, the #1 little duke. You deliberately disagreed with me that day just to attract my attention, right? You poisoned me because you wanted to see if my ability was enough to satisfy you, right? Yuan Kuang's face was filled with joy and complacency as he moved closer to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo, could it be that the little prince's brain was damaged by the poison? Little beauty, don't worry, although there are many beauties in my backyard, but I am willing to send them away for you. Yuan Kuang's face was sincere. Although you are older than me by a few years, but I don't mind. I want to marry you to be my princess. Yiqing Luo, indeed his brain was spoiled. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes as she avoided Yuan Kuang's outstretched hand and walked out of the room. Yuan Kuang immediately chased after her. Little beauty, my courtyard is over there, do you know the way? I will bring you over now. Shut up. Yiqing Luo shot him an impatient glance. Yuan Kuang's face, which was filled with large chunks of fat, kept trembling. It was sparkling. Although it was separated by large chunks of fat. Yiqing Luo could still see clearly the trace of fatigue in Yuan Kuang's eyes and the absent-minded look. It was obvious that Yuan Kuang's body had yet to fully recover after going berserk that time. He actually dared to chase after her? Wasn't he afraid that she would make a move on him again? However, even if she didn't do anything, Yuan Kuang would also be digging his own grave. Just from Yuan Kuang's action of running over to Miao Rongrong's courtyard, Yiqing Luo already knew Yuan Kuang's motive for coming over. He must have heard that Miao Rongrong was extremely beautiful. They wanted to come over to hunt for some ********. Furthermore, during this period of time, Yuan Kuang continued to live the same way as before. At night there would probably be at least 2 women serving him. He was already at death's door, yet he was still thinking of a gentle home. Was he complaining that he was not dying fast enough, that he was not miserable enough? Yiqing Luo scoffed softly as her long and narrow eyes curled into a contemptuous cold arc. Yuan Kuang seemed as though he couldn't see Yiqing Luo's disdain and disgust. After he was hollered at by Yiqing Luo, his eyes were filled with excitement. Little beauty, I shut up. I'll shut up right now. I'll shut my mouth and bring you to my courtyard. Saying that, he held Yiqing Luo's hand. His eyes were filled with lust. A pah sound was heard. Yiqing Luo's hand, unknowingly held a withered branch as it heavily struck the back of Yuan Kuang's hand. The back of Yuan Kuang's plump hand was imprinted with a scarlet mark. Yuan Kuang's eyes flashed with excitement. That excited glow. Chapter 2376. Damn. What a masochist. The more she tortured him, the more excited he was. From the looks of it, it was his noble status that made the people around him bow to him without the slightest bit of temper, which caused him to have this habit. Yiqing Luo quickly threw the branch in her hand to the ground, only to feel a chill. Yuan Kuang's appearance ruined her plan again. Miao Rongrong escaped and brought a bottle of antidote with her. At least for a short period of time, she had no way to control Miao Rongrong. Although, after Miao Rongrong ate the antidote, Miao Rongrong would take the initiative to look for her. But wait until then. A lot of things had already gone out of her control. What a trouble. Little beauty, Yuan Kuang, who was extremely excited, twisted his fat body. His narrow eyes curved into a line. A feeling of disgust welled up in her heart. Yiqing Luo felt her stomach churning just by looking at Yuan Kuang. But Yuan Kuang was still pestering her. She simply condensed a burst of profound energy and hit the back of Yuan Kuang's head. Who dares to be presumptuous in the Battle King's residence? Suddenly a stern roar was heard. Immediately after, Yiqing Luo felt a powerful force coming straight at her. Yiqing Luo's hand movements paused. She quickly turned to the side and avoided the attack of profound energy. Not far away, a dark figure was approaching from afar. A palm wind that was filled with enormous dark force came crashing down. The ferocious force caused the surrounding air to spin into huge whirlpools. What a strong force! Yiqing Luo sighed in her heart and immediately dodged. Immediately, the profound qi gathered and immediately met the palm wind, chopping it down. Bang bang bang, two forces collided. In a split second, the vortex was torn apart and the wind was entangled. This area of the Battle King's residence was completely reduced to ruins. Sand and stones flew and gravel scattered. The airflow dispersed and the smoke and dust dispersed. Two figures stood in front of Yiqing Luo. Standing in front was a middle-aged man who was about the same age as the Battle King. And the Battle King stood behind the man. That middle-aged man was dressed in a strange navy blue attire. It was different from ordinary people's attire. The man's upper body was covered in an extremely short navy blue robe. Around the waist, there were indecipherable patterns embroidered on it. The lower part of her body was made of cloth that looked like an apron. Underneath the cloth, she wore pants of the same color. This look made Yiqing Luo think of the minority dressing. Yiqing Luo immediately knew that middle-aged man's identity. Miao tribe leader, Miao Yixiong. He was Miao Rongrong's father. Who exactly are you? Miao Yixiong stared at Yiqing Luo in an unfriendly manner, as he was secretly shocked. The girl looked to be only 14 or 15 years old. He was actually able to dodge his attack. Moreover, he was able to exchange blows with him? Who was she? How could there be such a powerful force? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she smiled sweetly. So it's Chief Miao, are you here to look for eldest young Miss Miao? But you're too late. Miss Miao has already escaped from the warlord's mansion. What nonsense are you spouting? When the War King heard the word escape, his expression changed drastically. In front of Miao Yixiong, he did not dare to admit that he had imprisoned Miao Rongrong. Before he left, Miao Rongrong almost breathed her last. How could she have the strength to escape? Chapter 2377. Little slut, how dare you be so arrogant in my territory? The War King's face darkened. He immediately recognized the girl in front of him as the one in the portrait. The thought of this slut daring to lay her hands on Yuan Kuang, and even caused the Yuan family to have no descendants. The Battle Lord's heart was filled with hatred. He looked at Miao Yixiong, gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, Chief Miao, this is the woman I told you about, the one who poisoned my son with lust. Miao Yixiong's eyes were fixed on Yiqing Luo. It was as if he wanted to see through Yiqing Luo's profound grade. But no matter how he looked, he couldn't see through the profound glow on her body. Miao Yixiong's heart skipped a beat. Generally speaking, it was impossible to see through the opponent's profound grade or even sense the opponent's profound energy. Either the opponent had some kind of divine weapon to hide their profound energy, or the opponent's strength was above him. Miao Yixiong naturally believed the former. But he was also inexplicably worried about the latter. Where is Rongrong? Miao Yixiong stared into Yiqing Luo's eyes and asked calmly. Ran away. Yiqing Luo smiled calmly, took my things and ran away. When you go back, remember to settle the bill for Miss Miao, my things are never free. Miao Yixiong was silent for a moment. His eyes scanned Yiqing Luo back and forth a few times. Finally he turned around and left. Leader Miao. The Battle Lord didn't expect Miao Yixiong to choose to believe Yiqing Luo's words without hesitation. Miao Yixiong paused and looked at the Battle Lord coldly. I will go back to confirm if this girl is lying. I will cooperate with the Battle Lord and have the right to arrest her. After that he left without looking back. The battle lord's face darkened as he clenched his fist. Little slut. You can trick Leader Meow, but I will not let you off. He moved his fingers and took out a battle axe from his space pocket. I will use your blood as a blood sacrifice for my Yuan family's descendant. He roared furiously, raised the battle axe in his hand and attacked Yiqing Luo. Descendant. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows and repeated the word in astonishment. Then he leaped back with ease. She was as light as a butterfly spreading its wings, floating in the air. She looked at Yuan Kuang with a smile and said in a mocking tone, "So the little prince no longer has the ability to procreate? But then again, the little prince is still young. Wasting his body like this will naturally have a huge impact on certain aspects." She covered her pink lips with her slender fingers and smiled charmingly. It was clearly not a stunning face. At this moment there was a suffocating charm to it. Yuan Kuang was first smitten by Yiqing Luo's smile. But in Yiqing Luo's words, he felt as though he was soaked in December's cold water. His entire body quivered and his mind suddenly became clear. No ability to procreate. What do you mean? Yuan Kuang's body stiffened as he looked at Warlord in disbelief. Under Yuan Kuang's gaze, the Battle King couldn't swing his battle axe down no matter how hard he tried. He furrowed his brows and averted his gaze. Kuang, move aside. I want to kill this slut. Why does Warlord need to hide it from the little prince? After all, this kind of thing you will find out sooner or later. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. Chapter 2378. Yuan Kuang had been pampered since he was young and grew up in the palm of his hand. But that didn't mean he was stupid and brainless. The reason why he could be so lawless. It was precisely because he was the only son in the entire Yuan family. But now, he had lost his fertility. Which meant that the Yuan family had no more descendants. This meant that he was not a complete man at all. Yuan Kuang couldn't accept this. But the expression of the battle monarch. Yiqing Luo's mocking expression. All of these proved that this was indeed a fact. Don't you like me very much? Now you don't even believe in my words. Yiqing Luo's eyes curved as she smiled. You slut. Yuan Kuang's fat body kept trembling. He really liked Yiqing Luo. But this kind of liking was not love. Now that he knew his future was ruined by Yiqing Luo, there was only anger left in his heart. TSK. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue. Just a moment ago you said you liked me and the next moment you became a slut. Little prince's liking is really cheap. Yiqing Luo brushed her hair over her shoulder. Unfortunately, I have no interest to accompany you here. After saying that, she raised her hand and waved at them with a smile. The next moment, Yiqing Luo's figure had disappeared in front of their eyes. Slut. The battle monarch chased up a few steps. But at the moment when Yiqing Luo's figure disappeared, her breath also disappeared. Yuan Kuang's mouth exploded with a roar of anger. Like a huge meatball, the fat was trembling. The powerful profound energy formed circles and circles of whirlpools in the surroundings. Yuan Kuang knelt on the ground on one knee. His fingers clenched into a fist like a ball of meat heavily smashed on the ground. Bang bang bang. In an instant the ground was like a spider web spreading in all directions. Gravel flew in all directions, sand and stones flew. The entire battle monarch's residence was in a state of intense shaking. Kuang. The battle monarch saw Yuan Kuang losing control and went forward worriedly, trying to stop him. However, the vortex created by the powerful dark force forced him to retreat. Qingyu City's #1 prodigy. Yuan Kuang's talent was on the northern wave continent. He definitely lived up to his reputation. Yuan Kuang's eyes were ruthless. Bitch. I will make that bitch wish she was dead. After Yiqing Luo left the Battle King's residence, she headed towards the 3000 Peach Blossom restaurant. Miao Rongrong had returned to the Hmong village. She was afraid that she would not be able to see Miao Rongrong in the near future. She did not have a map of the Miao village. Even if she had it, she would not dare to go to the Miao Stockade village. That was the territory of the Miao tribe. Hundreds and thousands of goo worms appeared every minute. She couldn't take it. However, she was not in a hurry. The bottle that Miao Rongrong snatched away only contained 10 pills. One was in her hand. Only 9 pills were left in the bottle. One a day. In less than 9 days, Miao Rongrong would personally come to find her. And the Miao tribe leader, for the sake of Miao Rongrong's saintess position. For this bottle of pills, the Miao tribe's patriarch would have to pay the appropriate price. She just walked into the restaurant from the back door and headed to the basement. She saw Peach crossing her arms in front of her chest, looking at her with a teasing look. TSK. Smiling so sinisterly, what scheme are you thinking of again? Chapter 2379. Peach rolled her eyes at her. I'd be a fool to believe you. Yiqing Luo giggled. Little Peach, where's the fangirl? How long has it been and you don't worship me anymore? Peach sized Yiqing Luo up from head to toe and stroked her chin very seriously. It's better to look at a goddess from afar. Once you get close, all illusions will be shattered. Yiqing Luo pretended to be a beauty. Little Peach, my heart hurts. Peach took out a piece of yellowed paper from her arms and stuffed it to Yiqing Luo. Let me show you some news. After reading it, you can slowly feel the pain. Yiqing Luo took the paper and was about to look down. Suddenly she heard a loud crash coming from the main hall of the restaurant not far ahead. Immediately after, a loud bang was heard. A black shadow knocked over the door and window in front of it. The main hall and the backyard were separated by a row of extremely beautiful windows and doors. This collision caused the shadow to roll a few times heavily. The smile on Peach's face froze. Yiqing Luo also put away the paper in her hand and looked up at the person who was rolling on the ground and vomiting blood. It was a delicate-looking young man. He looked extremely thin and weak, as if he was underdeveloped. These few mouthfuls of blood spurted out. The young man's face was already pale, as if he would stop breathing at any time. Immediately after that, he saw a little girl in an emerald dress walking over arrogantly. Little trash, how dare you act so arrogantly in front of me, the leader of this group? Today I will let you see the gap between you, a lowly commoner, and me. The little girl waved the long whip in her hand, raised her head high arrogantly, and pointed at the young man arrogantly. The young man lay on the ground and looked up at the little girl approaching. His eyes were filled with the desire to survive. His body lying on the ground trembled slightly. He was not reconciled to die like this. But he had no strength to resist. The little girl had already walked in front of the young man. The arrogant little face was full of pride and contempt. She raised her hand and the long whip fiercely swung towards the young man. Ah! A blood-curdling scream resounded through the entire restaurant. But this scream was not from the young man's mouth, but that girl. It was mealtime and the main hall of the restaurant was almost full. The onlookers followed the sound and looked in the direction of the scream. He saw the girl lying on the ground in a sorry state. Her luxurious robe was stained with dust. The girl's meticulously dressed hair was also messed up when it fell to the ground. How dare you? How dare you attack the young princess? When the girl's guards saw that their master was actually sent flying, they immediately rushed forward and surrounded the girl. The girl looked in the direction of the voice. He saw a young girl in red clothes standing in front of him. In the girl's hand was a black leather whip. He looked valiant and heroic, and his aura was majestic. The girl's gaze was fixed on the girl in red's face. His eyes widened in that instant. It's you? The girl shouted. With the help of the guards, she stood up from the ground. It's you? The bitch who harmed Brother Quang. This girl was not someone else. When Yiqing Luo and Yuan Quang first met, she ran over to see Yuan Quang make a fool of himself, but in fact she was concerned about him. Xia Lingling, young princess seems to be in a good mood. Don't you know the place to be domineering? Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a smile. Chapter 2380. She recalled that Yuan Quang had been bedridden for the past few days. She recalled that she had been beaten up by Yiqing Luo and embarrassed herself in public. An obvious jealousy and hatred rose in his eyes. Arrogant and domineering? Xia Lingling placed her hands on her hips, raised her chin arrogantly and stared at Yiqing Luo, giving a cold snort. I am the most pampered little princess in the northern continent. I can teach you a lesson wherever I want. Who dares to object? Me. A light and melodious voice with a hint of laziness. Peach walked to the front of Xia Lingling, raised her hand to brush her long hair and looked at Xia Lingling with a smile. Xia Lingling's face sunk and stared at her angrily. Do you know who I am? You are just a lowly commoner and you dare to object? Do you believe that I will beat you to death? Peach tilted her head slightly, the smile on her lips did not diminish. Little princess, I am the boss of Peach Blossom Restaurant. You are making trouble in my restaurant. Am I not allowed to object? You are. Xia Lingling naturally knew that this Peach Blossom Restaurant was the territory of Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group, so she specially came over to make trouble. She had not expected to meet the boss of Peach Blossom Restaurant today. which was the leader of Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group, Tao Tao. This Tao Tao actually stood on the side of that slut. It was exactly as Sister Rong said, this Peach Blossom 3000 and that slut were in cahoots. The Battle King's mansion had searched the entire northern continent for such a long time but could not find any trace of that slut. It was the Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group that helped that slut to cover up all traces. Miss Tao, Uncle June has always been on good terms with the Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group. I do not wish to destroy the relationship between them and the royal family, so please pretend that you did not see what happened today. Xia Lingling grew up in the palace, and to be able to reach her current position, she was naturally not a fool. She was very clear about the status of the Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group. If it was because of a slut, it would cause the royal family and the Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group to turn against each other. Uncle June would definitely blame her. Her target was only that slut. But unexpectedly, after Xia Lingling mentioned the monarch June, the smile on the corner of Peach Blossom's lips did not change at all. Peach just looked at her with a smile, as if she was mocking her for overestimating herself. With the exception of Yuan Kuang, Xia Lingling had never suffered such humiliation anywhere else. Especially this time, in front of so many people. If Tao Tao didn't give her face, her prestige as a monarch would be completely crushed into nothingness. Young princess, you sure have an air of grandeur. You caused trouble in my restaurant and humiliated my friend, yet you want me to pretend that I didn't see it? Tao Tao couldn't help but laugh out loud. He looked at Xia Lingling as though she was an idiot. The little Canton princess is so unreasonable. Should I enter the palace and ask the emperor if he is right? Miss Tao. Xia Lingling shouted Peach's name angrily. Are you determined to protect that bitch? Peach blinked her bright eyes, looking like a harmless little girl. She's my friend. Of course I have to protect her. You guys are really in cahoots. Xia Lingling was so angry that her whole body was trembling. She knew that it was definitely not a wise move to fight with Peach head-on. But how could she be willing to let that bitch go just like that? Chapter 2381. Peach shifted his gaze and looked at Yiqing Luo, as though asking for Yiqing Luo's opinion. Yiqing Luo took a look at that frail-looking young man as her pink lips rose slightly. Little Region Princess, this is the Peach Blossom Restaurant's customer. You've hit the Peach Blossom Restaurant's customer, and if we don't do anything about it, wouldn't it disappoint the other customers? Yiqing Luo walked slowly to the young man's side and half-squatted down. Slender fingers placed on the young man's pulse. The young man was indeed malnourished and his body was especially weak. And after several rounds of bullying by Xia Lingling, what's more, he was just hanging on to his last breath. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly, took out a pill from the profound phoenix ring and stuffed it into the young man's mouth. Yiqing Luo realized, how did she become a doctor after coming to the northern continent? All kinds of medicine to save people. Luckily before she came, she had stored various kinds of pills in the profound phoenix ring in case of emergencies. That's a middle-grade pill? Yes, it's a middle-grade pill. It's used to replenish one's physical strength and nourish one's body. Among the crowd, when they saw Yiqing Luo took out the pill, they immediately cried out in shock. Middle-grade pill? Although middle-grade pills were more common. But under the scarcity of alchemists, and the success rate of alchemists refining pills was very low. A middle-grade pill, the price was at least 200 gold coins and above. If it was put up for auction, it was not impossible to sell it for 500 gold coins. Just like that, this young lady had fed a middle-grade pill to a complete stranger, an ordinary person. Wasn't she too rich and overbearing? Hearing the crowd's exclamation, Xia Lingling's expression turned gloomier and gloomier. Yiqing Luo's action was obviously a slap on her face. She was blatantly telling her, this young man, she must protect him. Xia Lingling's gaze was like a sharp sword, piercing fiercely on Yiqing Luo. Slut, you are deliberately going against me. I'm just protecting the safety of the customers of the Peach Blossom restaurant. Yiqing Luo smiled faintly. What kind of customer is he? He's just a lowly commoner, he probably can't even afford a meal in the Peach Blossom restaurant. Xia Lingling was so angry that she stomped her feet. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. The minute he enters the Peach Blossom restaurant's main door, he becomes our customer. This is the Peach Blossom restaurant's hospitality. You're clearly targeting me. Xia Lingling growled through gritted teeth. I'm against you? Little Region Princess, on what basis do you think you deserve to be targeted by me? Yiqing Luo snorted disdainfully as she swept her gaze over Xia Lingling. That gaze was blatantly provoking her. Xia Lingling glanced at Peach, who was standing beside her. Peach's attitude was obviously to let Yiqing Luo settle and she would deal with the aftermath. In other words, no matter what Yiqing Luo wanted to do, Peach would give her full support. If Xia Lingling wanted to deal with Yiqing Luo, she would be going against the 3,000 peach blossoms. Yiqing Luo expressed that other than Xian, the feeling wasn't bad at all. There was only one word to describe it: awesome. Xia Lingling's eyes reddened with anger as her pretty face contorted continuously. Yiqing Luo gave a ridiculing smile. But little Regent Princess, what motive do you have to target such a frail and helpless young man? Xia Lingling bit her lower lip as she suppressed her anger. It's this lowly commoner who harassed me, so I naturally have to teach him a lesson. Harassment? Yiqing Luo lowered her head and saw the young man's evasive gaze. Chapter 2382. So get out of my way now. I will bring this lowly commoner back to my residence. Xia Lingling's heart was filled with resentment, but she had no choice but to compromise. As long as they left the Peach Blossom restaurant, Tao Tao would have no excuse to interfere in this matter. The guards behind immediately walked over to bring that young man away. After the young man took the pill, his complexion looked better and he had regained his strength. He struggled to get up and hid behind Yiqing Luo. It was very clear. Only this young lady could save him now. Otherwise he would definitely die. When the guards went forward, Yiqing Luo raised her hand and stopped them. What else do you want? Xia Lingling gritted her teeth and roared angrily. Yiqing Luo smiled as she took a step forward, shielding the young man behind her. No matter if he harassed you or not, since he's in the Peach Blossom restaurant, I must protect his safety. What's more, he had eaten a middle-grade medicinal pill of mine earlier. If I let you bring him away, wouldn't my medicinal pill be wasted? It's not like I asked you to feed him. Xia Lingling was about to go crazy. She raised her head and tried hard to calm her emotions as she gritted her teeth. How much is that pill? I will give it to you. I have little Peach to raise, why do I need money for? Yiqing Luo said in a serious tone. Xia Lingling's chest was heaving up and down as she pointed at Yiqing Luo with trembling fingers. You slut, you are obviously intentionally making life difficult for me. She was infuriated to the extreme, causing her face to turn ferocious. I know it now. You must be eyeing Brother Kuang's power. You want to marry Brother Kuang and become his princess consort, which is why you've been picking on me. Yiqing Luo's smiling expression froze instantly. Brother Kuang? Yuan Kuang? What the F***K? Young princess, not everyone is like you. Such a hardcore taste. Yiqing Luo shuddered. And Yiqing Luo's expression change in Xia Lingling's eyes meant that her thoughts were exposed and she had a guilty conscience. Xia Lingling was so angry that her expression changed. Slut. I know you have bad intentions. The matter of you poisoning Brother Kuang is enough for Uncle Monarch to exterminate your entire clan. Even Miss Tao can't save you. Xia Lingling's roar brought the spectators back to their senses. All of them stared at Yiqing Luo. Yes, the woman that General Zhan Wang has been searching for these past few days is her. Hasn't General Zhan Wang been looking for this girl for almost 10 days? There was no news of her at all. Why did you come out on your own now? Haven't you heard? Just half an hour ago, the Battle King's mansion had already announced that the search for her had been cancelled. Revoked? No wonder she dared to appear in this restaurant. The sounds of the surrounding discussions entered Yiqing Luo's ears. Yiqing Luo raised her brows and glanced sideways at Peach. Cancel the search for me? What the hell? Didn't I show it to you just now? You didn't want to see it yourself. Peach shrugged. The piece of paper that Peach just gave her? Yiqing Luo immediately fished out that piece of paper and opened it. It was indeed the news released by the warlord's mansion not long ago. Cancel the announcement to search for the woman in the portrait. There was no explanation on the reason for searching for Yiqing Luo. There was no explanation on the reason for canceling the search for her. What was General Zhan Wang playing at? She couldn't be trusted. Battle King had no intention to pursue her, to avenge Yuan Kuang and the descendants of the Yuan family. Chapter 2383. I heard that the young prince called her his favorite concubine. Could it be that the young prince has fallen in love with her? Of course he does. Everyone in Qinghua City knows about the young prince's temper. Have you ever seen anyone who could appear in front of us unscathed after offending the young prince? The crowd nodded in agreement. The rumor about the woman that the King of War was searching for had spread all over the streets. Although the King of War had deliberately concealed it. More or less, they knew that this woman had humiliated Yuan Kuang in public and caused him to rest in the King of War's mansion for several days. Especially when Xia Lingling had just revealed the shocking news. Yuan Kuang had been poisoned by this woman. She had poisoned the young prince and made the King of War withdraw the arrest order. What was the background of this woman? The onlookers were both nervous and excited. They were worried that the King of War's mansion would be killed by the King of War because they knew the secret of the King of War's mansion. They were excited because they had personally seen this woman that even the King of War's mansion could not handle. You are all talking nonsense. How could Brother Kuang like this old woman? Xia Lingling stomped her feet angrily and her face was full of resentment. The more she listened to the praises of the people around her, the more she listened to the people around her matching that bitch with Brother Kuang. Xia Lingling could no longer suppress the anger in her heart. She could no longer suppress it. The anger that had accumulated in her chest was surging like a raging wave. Bitch, you have provoked my anger again and again. This princess will let you have a taste of this princess's prowess. Xia Lingling gritted her teeth and squeezed out a sentence. Then she stretched out her hand and a long black whip appeared in her palm. Enveloped by the profound light, the thin and long whip faintly flashed with a dark, cold light. From a certain angle, the onlookers could clearly see that the long whip was wrapped with a thin layer of sharp silver thorns. Although it was small, if it pierced into a person's body, it would definitely cut through the skin and make countless small bloody holes. What a cruel whip. Xia Lingling had actually taken out such a cruel whip. The onlookers all expressed their disdain for Xia Lingling in their hearts. However, no one dared to warn him or stop him. They hated the young prince of the War King's mansion. He also hated the little princess who was in cahoots with the little prince. These two devils were the nightmare of Qinghua City. It was rare for someone to show up and teach these two devil incarnates people a lesson. In their hearts they were very excited. Due to the power of the devils incarnate, they did not dare to be too obvious. The long whip in Xia Lingling's hand had already lashed out towards Yiqing Luo's face. The sharp silver thorns were reflected in Yiqing Luo's pupils. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed slightly as her lips curled into a chilly arc. Is little region princess desperate? Even your big brother Kuang was defeated by me. You want to show me what you're made of? Yiqing's charming eyes suddenly turned chilly. His entire body surged with a powerful dark light. Endless cold air from the bottom of Yiqing Luo's feet turned into a ball of white cold current, straight towards Xia Lingling. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. That white cold air flew over. Xia Lingling only felt an oppressive force that almost made her breathless, making her have no energy to wave the long whip in her hand. Her whole body stiffened. Chapter 2384. Bam! The cold current had already spread to Xia Lingling's feet. A bone-piercing chill made Xia Lingling's body tremble even more violently. In the next instant, a slap landed heavily on her face. The crisp sound of the slap resounded throughout the entire restaurant. Xia Lingling's body could not withstand the power of that slap. He was sent flying backward. Her face was burning with pain, as if there was a fire burning on it. From this, it could be seen exactly how heavy that slap was. However, that slap was so painful that half of Xia Lingling's face was swollen, but Yiqing Luo was unscathed. Because that slap was thrown directly on Xia Lingling's face by Yiqing Luo using profound qi. You slut. You hit me. Xia Lingling screamed as she pointed angrily at Yiqing Luo. Because her hissing voice affected the skin on her face. A burst of tearing burning pain made Xia Lingling scream in pain. Tears instantly flowed down Xia Lingling's face. Tears streamed down her face. This slut. She actually dared to hit her. She was the monarch. The most pampered little princess in the northern continent. Even Uncle Monarch couldn't bear to be fierce to her. But this slut took action and gave her a slap. Yiqing Luo wasn't the slightest bit annoyed or frightened because of her own actions. A faint smile appeared on that elegant face. This smile was very peaceful. Vaguely there was a trace of ridicule. Her calm look made the onlookers silently give Yiqing Luo a thumbs up. This aura was simply too. Xia Lingling, who grew up in the palace and was pampered since young, was like a joke in front of Yiqing Luo. Little princess, didn't anyone teach you the principle of careless talk? Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up into a sweet smile. Little princess's status represents the northern continent's royal family. You keep calling me slut. It makes me Doubt the quality of the people in the northern continent. The onlookers' faces sunk. Nirvana realm was divided into 4 parts. The 4 continents were competing with each other unknowingly. No one was willing to let people from other continents look down on their own continent. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, these northern tide continent's commoners instantly started to feel disgusted. But then he thought of what Xia Lingling had done. They really had no way of clearing Xia Lingling's name. Xia Lingling's face also turned pale. You are a slut. I didn't say anything wrong. The quality of the people of our northern wave continent is not something that a lowly commoner like you can control. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head and moved her fingers. An invisible airflow slapped Xia Lingling on the other side of her face. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly. Little region princess, if you scold me, I'll give you a slap. Let's see if it's your scolding or my slap that's more enjoyable. Xia Lingling's face was swollen like a pig's head. The searing pain made it difficult for her to speak clearly. His face was sticky, but he didn't know if it was tears or saliva. He was in an extremely sorry state. Xia Lingling stammered, unable to speak clearly. Chapter 2385. Yi Qing Luo's words really made the commoners in the North Continent feel as though their faces were on fire. Don't think that Yi Qing Luo's words sounded polite. But every single word was ridiculing Xia Lingling's rudeness. But Xia Lingling totally didn't understand the importance of this matter. Instead, she wanted to give Yi Qing Luo some big news which could belittle the North Continent. The spectators had already reached a stage of deep hatred towards Xia Lingling. Xia Lingling indeed didn't understand how much impact Yi Qing Luo's words would have on the North Continent. She only understood it. Yi Qing Luo was ridiculing her. Xia Lingling's mouth opened and closed as the muscles on her face twitched in pain as she whimpered miserably. She was so stunned that she couldn't shout out a single word. Yi Qing Luo smiled as her expression was tranquil as she turned around unhurriedly and looked at the young man behind her. The young man hid behind her as he trembled. His face was filled with fear. Seeing Yi Qing Luo turning around to look at him, the young man immediately knelt down. Thank you, miss, for saving my life. Thank you, miss. His voice was filled with agitation and one could hear the choking in his voice. Yi Qing Luo shifted her body away and avoided the young man's kowtow. She bent down and helped the young man up. You have quite a lot of injuries on you. Go over to Tao Zi's place first to treat your injuries. The young lady's warm hand gently touched the young man's hand. That warmth made the young man's eyes go into a trance. In his deep pupils, a green glow faintly flashed. It disappeared in a flash. Yi Qing Luo's eyes congealed as she looked deeply into the young man's eyes. The young man's eyes were pure and serene black. As though that green glow was just her misconception. It was in this daze that Yi Qing Luo saw the young man staring at her back in astonishment. Yi Qing Luo acutely sensed that a burst of murderous profound energy was swiftly attacking her from behind. Her expression sunk slightly as she was about to counterattack. But her arms suddenly tightened. The young man grabbed her wrist and pulled hard. The two of them exchanged positions. Yi Qing Luo saw a sinister-looking Xia Lingling holding a dagger in her hand as she swiftly stabbed towards the young man's back. Little Region Lord. Just as Yi Qing Luo's expression was gloomy, releasing her profound energy. Suddenly, a clear voice came from the direction of the lobby. Then they saw a man who looked about 18 or 19 years old rushing toward them. The man blocked Xia Lingling's attack and immediately grabbed her in his arms. Big Brother Wei. When Xia Lingling saw the man who stopped her, she struggled to get out of his arms. Let me go. I want to kill that bitch. The man frowned. He looked at Xia Lingling's swollen face and said, Young princess, stop fooling around. You are no match for her. How can this princess? Xia Lingling cried out in dissatisfaction. Soon after, the pain caused her to suck in a breath of cold air. The man's frown deepened. After Xia Lingling saw the man's expression, she shut her mouth and silently shed tears of grievance. The appearance of this man caused the surrounding spectators to suck in a breath of cold air. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and looked at the peach with interest. Tisk, what's her background? Even the arrogant and despotic little region lord has succumbed to his prestige? Miao clan leader's collateral relative, second master Miao's son, Miao Jingwei. The peach took a glance and recognized the man's identity. Chapter 2386. Peach's lively eyes sparkled with luster. Yes, after all, it is the Miao Gu family. Even the current monarch has no choice but to fear them. venomous spells. Those who didn't understand it would only think that it was a god. The royal family were naturally afraid of the Miao Gu family's mysteriousness and wanted to suppress it. Yi Qing Luo expressed that she pitied the royal family in the northern continent. On the left was the Battle Prince's residence. On the left was the Miao Gu family. On the right was the Miao Gu family. This monarch's position was filled with fear and trepidation every day. Miao Rongrong and Xia Lingling's relationship is not bad, and Miao Jingwei has been secretly in love with Miao Rongrong for many years and often follows her around, so his relationship with Xia Lingling is not bad too. No wonder she was the leader of the Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group. She knew all these gossip clearly. The Encyclopedia of Action. Yi Qing Luo expressed her approval. According to what I know, Xia Lingling and Miao Jingwei entered the Peach Blossom 3000 restaurant and ordered a table of food. Peach's lips curled into a mysterious smile, hinting at something. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes flashed a meaningful light. Miao Jingwei came together with Xia Lingling. Xia Lingling was creating trouble, so Miao Jingwei must be watching by the side. But Miao Jingwei only made a move to stop Xia Lingling now. Yi Qing Luo clicked her tongue. This man called Miao Jingwei wasn't as refined as he looked. He was a beast in human clothing. He was probably making use of Xia Lingling's arrogant personality to test her ability. After all, this Miao Jingwei liked Miao Rongrong. Miss, young princess has been spoiled since young, please don't be calculative with her. Miao Jingwei was sure that Xia Lingling's emotions had stabilized before he released her and apologized to Yi Qing Luo. If it was any other lady, under Miao Jingwei's elegant and refined apology, she would definitely blush and shyly express that she didn't care. But what has it got to do with me that she is spoiled? She is spoiled, so I deserve to be accused of being a slut? She is spoiled, so I have to smile and not be calculative after she tried to kill me? Do you think that everyone in the Nirvana realm are her parents? Yi Qing Luo directly bombarded him sentence by sentence in an imposing manner, oppressing Miao Jingwei so much that he was stunned for a moment before his face flushed red, but he had no way to refute. The phrase, Nirvana realm is all her parents, caused the surrounding spectators to burst into laughter. He had to admit it. Yi Qing Luo's sentence was simply too satisfying. When had Xia Lingling ever suffered such humiliation? Yi Qing Luo's words were ridiculed by the surrounding crowd. Xia Lingling almost fainted from anger. After a long while, Miao Jingwei reorganized his words and said, "What did young princess do to make you unhappy? I am willing to apologize on behalf of young princess." "No need." Yi Qing Luo sneered, "I'm not interested in your apology." Miao Jingwei's face darkened. Seeing Yi Qing Luo supporting that young man, walking towards the direction of Peach, she didn't even look at him. Miao Jingwei could not help but clench his fist. How was he inferior to that cripple? Whether it was her figure, appearance, strength, or family background, he was much stronger than that cripple. But this slut actually treated that cripple as a treasure and disdained him. Miao Jingwei's pride had suffered a serious blow. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.